Welcome back, brother. Holy smokes. Oh man, what a day we got in store. It's a Tuesday night. We've got lots to get into. We've got something on the backdrop which we can touch on later. But before we even get to that, there's something much more pressing, which is as what did you call it last week?
A football feast in the French capital.
A football feast in the French capital, which I think sets up perfectly a magnificent match in Munich. Not to get all corny and cliche
Oh, with the
with
alliteration.
the alliteration and all that. Maybe you got something better than that.
No, maybe we can ask ChatGPT, but I got
Yeah,
nothing.
maybe the AI calling a coward. We can ask him what he thinks. No, that'll be a separate episode.
Oh God, yeah, that was actually Siobhan, our New York's finest, Siobhan Bott, who introduced me to that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think it
was
was like a random Tuesday morning. I was getting ready for work, and I got a text from this guy. It's like calling coward in the like it was. I can't believe it.
Oh,
I couldn't
man.
believe it. I can't believe they have that thing.
Yeah, it really good. It goes to show you.
I think Tom Steyer will have his eventually, probably, right? He's
all
got a
those
lot of
commercials.
all this.
It's spending all that money on all those commercials and still not really doing too hot in the polls. Although a lot of people tell you polls don't really mean squat. Apparently there was a California governor debate tonight, by the way. I have no idea what happened, so I can't make any comments on something I haven't watched or heard of. But speaking of your guy Tom Steyer, man,
Oh,
that I won't say that. I won't do that to you, man. That guy's wow. Holy smokes, man. But something much different than maybe Tom Steyer will come on here one day.
well, I mean, if he's that desperate, he might as well just call off his campaign.
Yeah, at that point, he's as the young kid said, he's cooked.
Yeah.
He's finished, man. It's like a fork in him. But hey, man, I hope I never wish any ill will on anyone. I don't even. He's not gonna win. All those commercials, he's got no stop. Anyways, man, that's wow. But you know what though? If you didn't know anybody, you'd think he was the only one running for governor with other commercials
Yeah,
on TV.
that's
And that's
for sure.
something as a sports fan, especially because that's really where you watch the majority of the commercials.
Yeah, I mean, we have no choice. I mean,
Yeah.
March Madness,
Oh,
every basketball game, the last 2 minutes, it's commercial breaks every. Yeah.
wait, I know you're not really a big basketball guy to begin with.
No.
No, I know. To be honest, every sport's really good. I mean, basketball, definitely. Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I mean, even we could do that for every sport.
No, it's not. I didn't mean. I didn't mean
No,
that.
no, listen to that.
Give
Listen.
basketball some straight.
Oh, listen,
Football.
I'm gonna be tearing into
Football's a
basketball in a
complete
couple.
disaster
I'm gonna.
with it.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be tearing into basketball in a couple of days.
No, no tearing into basketball. I'm not an anti-basketball guy. I love.
No,
sports.
I mean, okay, I'm not gonna tear into basketball, but you know what I
It
mean.
just came to my mind
The
because,
coverage, I mean, the
because that's the
commercials, the
most
commercials.
egregious example in recent times.
Oh yeah.
Because if we were doing this in February, we would
The
I would
Super
have said,
Bowl, yeah.
The Super Bowl is its own animal, but just football in general, man.
Oh yeah.
I constantly hear about people bitching about the pace of play of baseball and how it's too slow and this and that. But I don't hear the complaints with. I mean, football, basketball, it's just ridiculous, man. The amount of commercials, the stoppages. I mean, the dreaded, score a touchdown, kick the extra point, go to commercial,
Kickoff,
commercial,
3-and-out punt commercial,
3-and-out punt commercial,
3-and-out punt commercial.
Yeah,
Games like
exactly.
that,
Oh, and man, I will be right back with you after these 30 seconds
Yeah,
after these
you know,
messages from Verizon.
So something we're gonna talk about. I'll probably kind of torture people by myself. Kind of what I did with the NFL draft about a week ago. Do that with college basketball and the NBA and basketball. And I mean, fuck, man, I pity whoever listens to that because that might be 3-4 hours by myself. And anyone who listens to that, honestly, you have nothing but my love and respect because I don't even know if I would listen to that. But one of the many things I would talk about with that would be like, with college basketball. And this isn't even the thing I want to talk about, but you mentioned March Madness. It's really just the TV timeouts that kill it. Because in college basketball, every 4 minutes of each half, and there's two halves. Every 4 minutes, the first referee whistle, foul, out of bounds, whatever it is, and they blow the whistle. They go to commercial break. So that's where you get a lot of those stoppages, is the built-in TV commercial of it. Like basketball in it of itself is a beautiful, fast-paced game.
Oh yeah, especially March Madness.
It's a beautiful game.
I mean,
And
especially all
And,
levels of basketball.
but then
college basketball is awesome.
definitely the commercials definitely can suck the life out of it in many ways, because especially nowadays. I mean, there've been a lot of times in games that I've watched, whether it's college, the NBA, or whatever, big shot, players going crazy, crowds going wild, team calls timeout.
Yeah.
And then they'll like cut through the replay of the thing and the reaction to go to commercial. And it's like, we couldn't have left that just for an extra like 10 seconds.
Just let it marinate.
You could have still had the commercial break. I got no problem with the commercial break. But something that's happened in recent times is not only the frequency of the commercial break, but it's the quick cut to commercial break. And then everything obviously has a sponsor and a segment. The halftime show is presented by one thing, and the pregame show, and then the postgame show.
The 30-second message from Verizon.
You know what I'm waiting for one day? I'm going to tell you what's going to happen one day. And I maybe this, I don't know when this is going to happen, but what's going to happen, I don't know which league is going to do it first. But what's going to happen is they'll have like the first half on one streaming service, and then the second half is going to be on a different streaming service.
Wow.
And it's going to be like the first half on Amazon Prime, and then the second half on Peacock, both with different sponsors.
And then the postgame on Netflix.
And then the postgame concert. No, the halftime show will be on Netflix.
Oh, yeah, right.
And then the postgame will be on with actually AI Colin Cowherd.
Oh.
It'll be him, just talking to him. It'll be him and the AI bot talking to each other. And the AI bot will give its thoughts of what just happened to real life Colin Cowherd, and they'll spar against each other. And then with the I don't know, man. Anyways, we could be here all
I would
day.
love an AI chatbot from Micah Richards. Big Meeks.
Big Meeks, yeah.
That would be a fun time.
There you go.
Big Meeks.
Would you ever want an AI chatbot of yourself? Like a D chatbot? Maybe that sounds bad. A Nick D chatbot.
No.
No, you don't want a chatbot of yourself, like when
No,
you don't want to like transfer your brain somewhere else. No,
there's not really much to transfer out of this brain, first and foremost. But secondly,
there's nothing here either.
Well, a couple things that you said. First of all, the long spiels. I think you said no one would want to listen to the 2-3 hour whatever, but
who gives a fuck, man?
No, I'm saying we at the Unfiltered Report, we want that. We love that.
Yeah, we encourage that
you
shit.
And
I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna do it.
Habitat.
Listen, I'm gonna do it.
We already got it with the NFL.
And I'm saying this in front of you, by the way. So if I don't do it, you can call me out on that. You can say what the hell happened, man.
No.
But yeah, no, man, that's.
I think I can speak for most.
We could do it.
I can speak for everyone who's come on the show. We can listen to you talk about sports all the time, man.
I appreciate that. That means a lot, man. I wouldn't say that I have anything really particularly interesting in that regard. But I just love chopping it up with all you guys. Are always what I like to say that the stars of this will make this fun and unique. But holy smokes, man! A football feast in the French capital.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say, the commercial break. The quickness. Just the urgency of going to commercials and basketball. Something that I really love, and this somewhat related with the NBC on the Premier League on NBC. Something that I love that they do, give them a shout out, is that at the end of games. Or I don't know if it's every match. Well, the matches that they have on USA on NBC, at least, that they have over the air on their cable channels. I say that because I don't think on Peacock that they just do the world feed. But the games that they have on their over the air cable networks, the USA, NBC, at the end of the games, they kind of they pan the camera. They take there's a camera guy who goes on the pitch. Follows the players and the managers.
And when they go to the stands,
they applaud the fans and everything. And I mean, they do that for a good 5 minutes a lot of times. And sometimes they'll have like Rebecca Lowe, Tim Howard, the two Robbies giving a voiceover as that's happening. But sometimes they'll just completely stay silent, and then they'll just let the atmosphere just speak for itself. And credit where it's due, right? And that's where, I mean, not to be an NBC propagandist, because I think I was enough of that during the Olympics, as my brother would probably like to say. But
shout out Mike Tirico, man.
Oh man,
I would love to get Mike Tirico on here one day.
Oh yeah, dude, that guy.
We could chop it up with Mike Tirico
He's
for
a
a couple
front runner
hours.
for. I mean, him and
He's
Marcus
a
Freeman.
front runner for
We
the
talked about
Unfiltered
before.
Report, the Unfiltered Reports Person of the Year. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Honestly,
And-
I hope whoever wins that award, I hope will come on here and accept the trophy. And we'll
hey,
go out
dude!
and find
If
the
you watch the
trophy.
World Cup draw, I mean, we're handing out,
We could give
trophies
trophies.
left and right, or awards left and right.
Yanni Infantino's up there for the Unfiltered Report.
Infantino, Marcus
He's up
Freeman,
there.
Liam
Mike
Rossini,
Tirico,
although
Liam Rossini,
I think
yeah.
Liam maybe his stock might have plummeted a little
Yeah.
bit, but,
Yeah, his 15 minutes of fame came plummeting to a crash after he got fired.
but no. So yeah,
NBC, yeah, no,
I love that they do that. Because,
and I wish they more.
It's all about, we talk about all the time, like when it comes to sports, all sports, it's all about the atmosphere, man. It's all about the fans. It's about the fans. It's about the energy. You know, these games, it's nothing without the fans, and so to kind of get that spontaneous interaction between the players and managers and the support at the end of matches is pretty awesome. So if they integrated that sort of thing in basketball too, that would be awesome.
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, the basketball atmospheres in Europe are spectacular.
Oh yeah, they're a lot like
they're a lot like the.
I mean, I've seen the Turkish basketball games, bro.
Oh yeah,
Or Greece.
They light flares indoors.
Oh, yeah.
They get rowdy in there.
Holy smokes!
If you listen to a lot of the American-born players who go play basketball overseas. Or if you listen to the European players who played in Europe and they come over here, they always talk about like, oh yeah, I mean, playing in this is nothing compared to playing over there with, people who would probably try to kill you after the match if you depending on if you win or if you lose, maybe either way, like, playing in,
Are you saying that the when opposing teams visit the crypt and they have to face that big wall of?
Oh, that's not the crypt. That's Intuit, though.
Oh, sorry,
different.
Intuit. My bad. Yeah,
the Dortmund wall.
Apologies to Intuit and Crypto.com.
Oh yeah.
Future potential sponsors. I don't want to. No, but
not after this. Maybe. Actually, you know what? Maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll hear about Intuit again come December when
football
season starts.
Yeah, football season comes. Yeah,
tax season starts earlier every year. It feels like.
I mean, listen, if you get the advertising dollars, why not? You can make it a year-round thing.
But yeah, man, those atmospheres in Europe.
Oh yeah, globally, really, and that's what I'm actually would be fascinating to see a twofold thing with the World Cup coming this summer to to North America and the United States. Number one is you mentioned NBC, and then the contrast of the coverage between that and their Premier League coverage, maybe even CBS, Paramount, and their Champions League coverage versus Fox and the World Cup coverage. That's one part of the conversation. And then the other part of it is, a lot of times with these atmospheres that you get, regardless of the sport outside of North America, where you get the passionate atmospheres, you get a lot of, it's about the supporters, just like, obviously there's still going to be expensive tickets and, even European football, like these big Champions League matches, I'm sure the tickets are outrageously expensive, but, I'm sure for like a league match or something, you could still go for a decent price for, a lot of the solid clubs. And, whereas maybe, over here, especially for the World Cup, with the ticket prices being what they are, it'll be interesting to see how that impacts the atmospheres at the World Cup compared to previous World Cups. That's maybe a bit of an unknown. I guess we'll see. Maybe we overstated a bit and it ends up being fine regardless. And maybe that ends up just continuing to justify the price points of it. But yeah, I think that plus the coverage would be pretty fascinating to monitor. Because I think I wish we could get more of that. Like the inside the pitch, even basketball, American football, baseball. Maybe less of like the sideline reporters and like the in-game interviews and stuff, but maybe just a little bit more of let's just let the crowd speak for itself. Like a big shot. Guy hits a big three. Commentators just kind of the package rolls. They play it out, and okay, you can still go to commercial, but that's fine. You want to make your money. I get it. I got no problem with that. But can you now wait the extra like 10, 15 seconds let the player reaction, even without any player audio, because I've seen it a lot of times where like player would hit the big shot and they've got the slow mo cut out of them running back to the bench, yelling all kinds of obscenities, and they've got their arms in the air, or whatever it is, they're beating their chest, and it's in slow motion. And I've seen it so many times, and then before they can even finish like the celebration in slow mo, just the package cuts and it goes right to commercial. And it just kind of like takes the air out of the moment a little bit sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'll be interested to see the World Cup aspect of it for sure.
Letting the moment breathe.
Yeah.
These games, just after a big
sometimes I
goal
think
or a big shot, or
let the moment speak for itself a little bit, like
Yeah.
and then obviously, I mean, that contradicts what we're doing, where we're just kind of yapping about it. But the difference being is that I mean, I would love to honestly call games, because like going to what we're going to get into, like the way that you and I watched, the way we watched Bayern PSG, that first leg in France, and we watched that on DVR together, and that was a blast. And part of what made that such an enjoyable experience is that we just sat there for over an hour and a half and didn't say a damn thing the whole time. Like, and that was great. Honestly, I love that shit. Which is going to contradict what we're doing here, but I think in order to you need a little bit of both, I guess, sometimes. And I think that's even something that I've learned as I've gotten older, is that like sometimes you kind of have to let the moment speak for itself. You have to let the moment breathe. You have to really immerse yourself in the game sometimes too, like in order to really get the full picture of what's going on in any sport.
Yeah.
Even if you're not there physically and you're just watching it, just to be able to listen to the crowd,
Oh, dude.
watch the players move,
Oh.
watch the inner tacticalities within the game, and just to be able to lock into that.
Man. You're speaking my language.
I think that's such a far superior viewing experience to me than like the flashies, like the cut up like 30-second clips and whatnot. Like I get that's what gets ratings, that's what sells. It's like the clickbait and the headlines and whatnot. But what I really love about any sport is just the inner workings of it, the full immersive experience. And when it comes to the global game of football, soccer, as we like to call it here, as Fox will tell you all summer, it's soccer and not football. With Pulisic scoring extra time winners against Brazil and commercials and the whole spiel. But that's really what I personally enjoyed about watching that together, and we can get into it. And what I would love to really do is set it up in a way where there's a level of tacticality that you can get to within the global game that I can't. There are sports that you and we can both get into it individually, and then it's like a Venn diagram. There are some that we have an overlap, and we can go back and forth with that in different levels of it. And this is probably somewhere within that Venn diagram quadrant where I listen to I think I know the globe. I think I know soccer pretty well. I mean, I don't know it as well as you do and other guys who've been on here, but I think I know it. Because I've watched enough sports in my life, I might not know the inner tacticalities of it as much, but I can tell you who's good, which clubs are good, which players are good. I don't think that requires much of a rocket scientist, but to the level and analysis that you perhaps can take it to, I can't get there. But I thought it was just an amazing experience to be able to sit there, watch that again in complete. I mean, outside of Big Lou, obviously, was having a blast. And I look forward to getting Big Lou back on here. And he was a superstar, man. But yeah, that was just a really outstanding experience, being able to just immerse into not only a match, but then to take it a step further. And that's where I want to, give it to you, is just that match in particular. Um, that match in particular where, I mean, I haven't really watched a match like that in any sport, in quite some time, from beginning to end, where it was just end to end. It was like a pinball machine. They were just going back and forth. Um, it was breathtaking. And as someone with no horse in the race and no dog in the fight, whatever analogy you want to use, which Pete is probably going to come after me for using animals in that analogy. Um, I don't know, man. I just thought that was a really spectacular experience, and I can't imagine what tomorrow night or in Europe tomorrow afternoon here in the States is going to bring us an encore for that. And that's why I just want to set it up to you, man, and your thoughts on that first leg in Paris between Bayern and PSG.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm glad that you enjoyed the experience. Maybe it was a little intimidating at first, sitting in a in the living room with me and my brother, where we're like so locked in and so intense, and we're not saying a word really. It's a dark, we're in a dark room, and the only light, it's like a movie theater, so to speak, in many ways, and we're just like, and I part of that is because at least when we're watching, when I watch games that don't involve my teams that I support in any sport, I'm a lot more of like the casual viewer. Like I'll chop it up while watching the game. But when it's one of my, a team that I'm in, one of my teams, like I completely lock in. Like I treat it as if like I do everything I can to make it feel like I'm at the game, because that's what gets the blood pumping, the adrenaline, the adrenaline rushing, and it's that's what life is all about, like feeling those things. And yeah, and I've experienced many games like that over the years, and in soccer and football and hockey, baseball. Even last year I kind of got a little bit of a dose of it with basketball when my alma mater made it to I was in the March Madness and basketball tournament that lost to Michigan. Still stings a little bit, but go Titans. But yeah, so that's how we do it. And I'm glad you enjoyed it, because look, and I do think there's like a time and place for, like, as you were saying, for all kind of viewing of sports, like like the short clips and stuff. It's like
you need all of it.
Yeah,
you need the short clips,
like food, man. I mean,
you need the play-by-play with the color commentary.
Yep.
You need just the cut-ins to the crowd and the players with nothing there.
Yeah.
You need the analysis of it, especially to break it down and whatnot. You need all of that.
Right.
It's like you said, it's like food. It's like ice cream. You need a little bit of
You
need not everybody's going to be into the same thing, and you want to be able to give as much of a variety of that as possible. I feel like, and that's kind of what we want to do here in many ways. Is we want to be able to provide all different forms of that. Like if you're into the 3-4 hour thing, that's available. If you're into the quick thing, we're going to start doing that too. Like, a little bit, if you're into the video aspect, if you're into the social media aspect of it, if you're into the, we're going to get all those different varieties, all the different cast of characters. Oof. And that's kind of what I'm excited for, is like, not to make it a narcissistic world tour or anything, but like, that's really what makes me excited, is that, it's, I feel like this is our time with all these different combinations of people to kind of bring our own flair to something that we all love in different ways, and we consume it in different ways. We see it in different lenses. We talk about it in different ways. We view it differently. Right. We have different in each sport. There are, like you and I always talk about it. Like when we have private conversations, like, oh, that's a D guy. Oh, that's a mega bad guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And sometimes we're being sarcastic, and then sometimes we're being legitimate.
Yeah. For sure.
And
the great thing about that is, like, there's times where, I mean, you might not have established, you might not have like mentioned to me, oh, this is one of my.
But you already know.
But there's like, if I'll see this guy for the first time on TV, I'll be like, oh, that guy screams nigga back. Oh, like that.
And I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna give you a little bit of a setup here, and I'm gonna give you some credit, and I'm gonna give you your flowers, as the cool kids say. And I'm gonna say basically that if no one believes you, I can vouch for it myself, because we've known each other for a long time, for many, many years, and I can vouch for this. That when it comes to Bayern, even before the guy was on Bayern, all these players, like Olise, obviously Harry Kane with the Tottenham connection as well. But like, I can attest to the fact that you've probably been banging that drum a little bit longer, maybe than not everybody, but than the average person for sure. You've been on that, and that's an example of like a D guy. It's like I know you're not, you identified certain or different. I mean, there are many examples of that over the years, different sports and whatnot. and we'll get into that over due time. But like, there's definitely a level of tacticality and analysis that I'm excited to kind of get your thoughts on, not only just with the Bayern PSG match, but as we move forward into things for people out there to look forward to, the World Cup especially. We don't want to give away all the trade secrets. Just stay tuned, and there'll be a lot coming for that. And
I think what'll be great is we'll kind of have the idea that we have right now is we'll have kind of like different modes of presenting the content throughout the World Cup
for everybody to enjoy. Right?
Like a little bit of everything for everybody. So the short form stuff, the longer form stuff.
Like a quick 5 minute, a quick minute and a half,
and it's kind of like a microcosm of how, like, again, we all enjoy sports in our own ways.
Yes,
I kind of liken it to on a Friday night, if you're staying in, you just kind of want to like chill out at the house. Like you open one of these streaming. I'm not a big I don't really watch too much TV outside of sports, but there's times it's like, let's just put on Netflix or Paramount, whatever. Shout out all these streaming services, by the way. Little wink, wink to you guys. But sometimes you're like, you have all these different genres, right? You have drama, you have crime, you have comedy, you have document. Well, I don't know about documentary, but documentary,
everything, comedy, special,
sitcom. Sometimes
animated,
more long form, like just like form. You want the 1917 is a phenomenal film. Like if some nights I'm feeling 1917, kind of like that, just like kind of like watching a Champions League football match where I'm just like for 2 hours I'm just like I'm just like a
immersed in
degenerate where I'm just I'm a sicko basically. But then there's other times like I've had a long day. I just want to turn on the TV, watch just like a kind of like a almost like fast food, like Friends or whatever,
something quick
something quick. I mentioned Friends because I know you're a big Friends guy. Both of us.
Yeah. Shout out to Friends. Yeah, definitely. Grew up, watching that with my, with the family, my parents. So
the time was classic. But I don't know. It just came in my mind because it's one of those,
No, you know what you mean. It's different.
Modern Family, all these, the 2.5 Men's of the world, just like
random show,
things that you don't require you to think. You just want to
turn your brain off.
You just want to turn your brain off and kind of just be like what you say when you watch hockey. Sometimes it's like
it's my animal brain.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I have no idea what the fuck's going on, but I love that shit, man.
Yeah. So it's the same thing with sports,
But it's at a different level, for example, than like basketball.
Yeah.
If I'm watching a basketball game, the hamster wheels are going like crazy.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the SpongeBob episode where there's like 10 different SpongeBobs running around and his brain's on fire? It's like, what's his name? That's kind of how my brain goes sometimes. But but no, that's kind of what we want to do. Exactly. We want to have all the different because there's, the one thing I always try to emphasize in these is that like there's no right or wrong or like one way to do these or like so just like everybody that will come on here that has and will in the future that hasn't before. Everybody has their own unique qualities. Not everybody's the same, and everybody has their
everyone
own,
brings something unique to
exactly, and
we
then
kind of all supplement each other
exactly, and then in addition to that, is that not only that, but just what other people like to consume. Some people don't have the time to listen to, and I completely understand that.
Right,
and so I don't want to. And then some people want that, like they yearn for something like deeper and actually deep level analysis of something stimulating, exactly. And so what we want to do like today and everything onwards with all the is to have all of that.
It's like a buffet.
To basically to make this a buffet of not only sporting stuff but anything. Really?
You want to talk about Tom Steyer?
Tom Steyer. Listen, Tom Steyer can come on here, man. It's an open invitation. I think at this point we've got a lot of people nomination not only for the Unfiltered Report Person of the Year, but we've also got a lot of people who definitely there's an open-ended invitation. I'm not really the social media type. We'll have to get maybe someone to look into like reaching out to these guys on social media. Something like that, or their booking team or something, or I'll have to find a phone number or something. Knock on the door. Yeah, we should get Mike Tirico. I want Mike Tirico and Tom Steyer here with Marcus Freeman and Yanni Infantino.
Oh boy!
And then we could have like a red carpet and everything, and turn it into a whole fucking sponsored smorgasbord of who's who of the corporate sponsors, and everybody's happy. Oh man, I don't know if people are gonna. Anyways.
We got Eileen Gu, Alexi Lalas.
Oh, there you go.
Get the whole cast of characters.
Yeah, Alexi Lalas for
John
sure.
Strong,
Stu Holden. Stu Holden and I think are connected on LinkedIn.
That's right.
I think.
Wow.
Maybe if this ever gets put on LinkedIn, he'll find it and then he'll come on here too. Stu Holden.
Wow. I've always been a big fan of your work, Stu. Always, yeah. Big fan.
We love you, Stu.
Stu, you're great, man. Wow.
Yeah, no, really, Stu, you're the man. And Alexi Lawless too.
Oh yeah, he's great.
Alexis,
yeah. And John Strong. How could I forget? I love it. The most. We're talking about adrenaline rush and getting just intellectually stimulating stuff.
Down.
Oh, nothing gets me excited like at the end of a first half. At the end of a half in a football match when John Strong yells at the top of his lungs, 45 down, 45 to go here in Kansas City as Sporting KC are up 2-0 against the Portland Timbers. No greater.
Shiver me timbers, man. Nothing.
It's up there with the Hello Friends with Jim Nance. You are looking live with the Brent Musburger. Remember him back in the day
before he got
before he hit on AJ McCarron's girlfriend, right?
Blast from the past, yeah.
Hey, that's SEC country, man. That's how they do it over there. That's your neck of the woods.
Yeah, go Tigers, man.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers. Who dat? Go Tigers.
Rocky Top's gonna take the SEC this year, I think.
Rocky Top's.
No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe.
Speaking of, that's a place that I would.
I would honestly. I would love to take in. With the. I would love to take in a crowd of.
My God, Knoxville.
It's a great aesthetic viewing. Honestly, you mentioned with the Premier League. I wish that they did that with college football more. Like the NCAA football video game kind of cut up, but like with the games, just take me into the, like Clemson with the. Or any of these schools, Florida State, Auburn, fucking, Indiana, national champions, Michigan, any of these schools, man. Take me inside.
Seattle,
UW, Eugene.
I mean, heck, even old Kinnick over there. In the
Iowa, Wisconsin, Cam Randall. Man, that's a lot of great atmosphere.
Jordan Hare already.
One of these days, what I would love.
South Carolina, Columbia.
Oh yeah, for sure. Obviously, Penn State.
A&M, dude.
A&M for sure. I always said the noise at A&M always comes out different.
A little.
Instead of more of a. I don't know. Maybe that's just
they love to cosplay as like military guys down there, huh?
They have the midnight yell and everything too. Yeah, honestly, there are a lot of places. I would love one day. We take this on the road and we do. Like they have the Big Noon Kickoff College Game Day. I can't believe I said Big Noon Kickoff first, by the way. In a million different simulations, I probably say Game Day first. But
no, that's all right, man.
Game. Yeah, it's just how the simulation works, man. But with those two, maybe we do like the Unfiltered Report on the road. We do like each week from a different location. But that would have to be down the line. But I would love to do something like that. That would be dream. Like have like students from the university and like alumni and. People within the community just come on and talk shop about, what the school and the sport that we're watching means. Like the tailgate, dude. I would love to do like
different foods too, all across the country.
Different foods. West Virginia, and they do pepperoni rolls and moonshine. I remember I wrote an article about that a long time ago. I can't imagine what that would be like at West Virginia.
What's their stadium called again? Thinking.
Oh man, the one I wish I could tell you, man.
West Virginia, I'll always remember for that. I don't remember what year, 2013, Geno Smith when they started they were like I think top 5 in the.
I'll take you to what I always remember is the Rich Rod team back in the day. They had Pat White and all those guys. Back in the day, if you remember, even like I know Tavon Austin at one point, but that was more Geno Smith, and then what was the
tank commander himself?
What was that guy? What was that? Fuck. Now the one time we're doing this when I'm playing, what was that motherfucker's name? Was it Noel Devine? Was that his name? Man, I'm gonna kill myself though. Yeah, Noel Devine was that it? Yeah, Noel Devine, West Virginia. I can't believe I
Wow.
and then those Rich Rod teams back in the day. Yeah, Pat
Yeah.
White was one of those college quarterbacks that back in the day that never really got, and it was before his time. Probably would have never but wow, right, all these different places, man. It would be great to watch a game in all those different places.
We would have to invest in the travel for sure, because now with the conferences, I mean, you got Stanford and Cal playing in the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Oh yeah, and then SMU and the yeah, it's just like in the Big Ten, they've got what is it, the 18 teams, and then the Big 12's got like 16.
I mean, yeah, shoot. We played Washington. We played UCLA. I say we because I mean I didn't go to Washington, but I've adopted them as my college football team. Go Dogs! But we played UCLA this past year. I mean, my brother is a UCLA alum, so because the Big Ten is 18 teams, I think the next time we play UCLA is like 2 or 3 years from now. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, we could do a whole episode dedicated to like conference realignment because it's still churning right now. Even you mentioned UCSD, your Tritons, they're leaving the Big West. They're going to be gone. So no more Cal State Fullerton, UCSD, basketball, baseball, soccer, all those. No more.
What conference?
UCSD. They are going to the. If you will allow me to. Yeah, the West Coast Conference. They're going to the WCC. So
they've been relegated.
No, they haven't been relegated. So Gonzaga is leaving the WCC
for the
Pac-12,
right?
And then UCSD is going. Basically, what happened is this: the Mountain West got ransacked, and then the Mountain West cannibalized. Like the Big West, and then the WCC got rid. So basically, every school is like moving up a tier. Basically,
got it.
Up the tier. Not every school, but like Davis is gone. I think Davis is going to the Mountain West. UCI is gone from the Big West. Basically, the Big West is. Oh, Tom Steyer's on the. Hey. There you go, Tom.
Oh,
can't make this stuff up, man. On the backdrop. Wow.
You're saying the conference realignment, with
UCI. Basically, we would have to honestly.
There's a lot of moving pieces.
There's a lot of moving pieces, and normally I'd be, now my brain's like scrambled eggs, and I'm gonna go back later. I'm gonna start, banging my head. How did I not remember that? But yeah,
it's fine, man.
But basically, all these conferences.
It's May.
But obviously, all these conferences. Even you've got, for example, North Dakota State's going to be in the FBS this year.
Dude, that's
in football, but they've been because a lot of people forget too that there are D1 basketball, baseball, etc. schools that are either FCS football or they don't have football. So like your Tritons and my Titans don't have a football team at the moment.
Right.
But then, for example, Cal Poly, SLO, they have a football team. UC Davis. They have a football team, but they're FCS. So then North Dakota State, they've been dominating the FCS for many years. Now they're coming up to FBS. You've got Texas State in the Pac-12. You've got SMU in the ACC we mentioned. I think Cal Baptist is now going to be in the Big West along with Sacramento State. And a couple of
Northern Illinois
is going to the Mountain West.
That's right.
I'm pretty sure as well. Because the MAC got raided.
Yep.
So now, Northern Illinois, I think, is in the Mountain West because the Mountain West had to retool as well. So I think so there's all these different moving parts essentially, of all these different schools. And then, some leagues have rebranded in non-football leagues. Some leagues have joined together. I'm old enough, you and I are old enough to even remember the WAC before it died back in the day.
Yeah.
Back in the Kellamore Boise days before that went to the Mountain West. We could do a whole episode on.
But one thing isn't changing as far as we know. Notre Dame's staying independent.
You mentioned. No, hold on. You mentioned something interesting. So we were talking about college basketball earlier. And there's a lot I want to talk about college basketball that has nothing to do with this, but this is actually on the subject of what we're talking about. There's been a big thing with regards to college basketball, and it's There's one thing that we haven't that there. So there was the one that I think most people would know, which is that the tournament's going to be 76 teams now. But that's not what I'm referring to. What I'm referring to is I don't know if you heard about this or not. I know you're not really a college basketball or a basketball guy, so I even posed this question to the people out there that might listen to this. I don't know if anyone has paid attention to this or not. But just a couple of days ago, you know how Duke basketball is basically like the Notre Dame of basketball in many ways.
Oh yeah, I think
They signed a deal for three games with Amazon.
Wow.
And basically now what that does is that opens up a huge fucking can of worms.
Oh boy. Wow.
That opens up a huge can of worms because we always talk about it, just like with conference realignment. It just takes one. And once one does it,
yeah,
anyone can do it.
Well, with the four West Coast schools that are in the Big Ten, I think it was jump started by USC.
Yeah, it started with USC way back when.
And then the Big Ten.
But you know what? But those seeds were planted far beyond when that actually happened. That was in the works for a long time.
Right.
That wasn't just something that just magically happened one day.
Oh no.
It wasn't like, they wished upon a star and then they woke up the next day. No, that took a lot of, But something funny too, I always find funny about like the college football playoff, to make a side note tangent of that, is I always find it funny how complex they make it. Like, oh, we need to have this many teams, this many automatic qualifiers. Oh no, we should have it at this time. And you have the coaches and the ADs, and they have to come up with all these different proposals of what to work. And, then they say, oh, let's get Congress involved because that's always a great idea. Like, it's always just a blast, man.
I feel like if you just get Kirk Herbstreit and Joel Klatt in a room together, and they just talk it out for, I don't know, a couple hours, they would figure it out all by themselves. They got all the answers.
They got all the answers.
They would be able to do it. I mean, shoot, you get the best of Fox, the best of ESPN.
I mean, ESPN basically has their hand around the neck of the college football playoff in many ways too.
Oh, don't worry. I know. The Fox loves to remind us any chance they just as much as ESPN is definitely in bed. Well, I mean, I don't know with how much certainty we can say how much they're in bed with, say, like the SEC, of course, but Fox loves to remind us that ESPN has heavy influence in how things go with the college football playoff. Obviously because they have the games. So, not the first person to remind me of that fact.
Yeah.
But just
Fox Sports, baby.
Fox Sports. But yeah.
Man, I think what I would just what I would love to see, honestly, is something that I've thought about. I think a lot of people have complained a lot about the whole NIL, the transfer portal, all these different things. And I think sometimes what that does is like it leads to over course of correction. And that's what I'm afraid is going to happen. Because I think there have been some solid, and there's something we'll get into in due time with that college, So I think a lot of times the media element of it will focus on a lot of the flaws that have come out of modern college athletics.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that there aren't some flaws, but I think what it's done is it's also taken away from the fact that in many ways there are a lot of positives as well. And one example I would love to highlight real quick while we're on the subject, just to kind of set the stage for future conversations, is like within college basketball, and every sport really, but like the big, even, football is the most mainstream, but basketball, baseball, whatever. I watch a lot of college baseball. We're going to do a college baseball thing someday too. But college basketball, right? Like the transfer portal, a lot of people complain about that shit. Oh, back in my day, you had to sit out a year. Back in my day, blah, blah, blah. And people get mad at the unlimited transfer stuff and, guys not staying at the same school. And you've got examples of players who go to like 5 schools in 5 years.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't like that. Me, honestly, maybe I'm in the minority. I really don't give a fuck. I really don't care. I think because the way I look at it is twofold. First of all, for many, many years, long before NIL and transfer portal and all that, coaches could get up and leave whenever they wanted without consequence. And a lot of times when a coach would leave, it might fuck over the guys who commit to go play for that coach. right? And then you get stuck with the new coaching staff that didn't recruit you, and maybe you fall out of favor a little bit. But that's not even the point that I want to make. I think maybe there might, again, maybe there should be some cap on that. I don't know to what extent. That's a different conversation. But the point I want to make is the thing with things like the transfer portal, what it's allowed to happen, especially within college basketball specifically, but even college baseball, college football, a lot, all three of them really, and those are the three I know the best. I'm not going to be able to sit here and talk to you about college volleyball or college soccer or even college hockey. I know like the Frozen Four or whatever, but I know that Gavin McKenna guy's going to the Maple Leafs that won the lottery today. But the point I'm trying to make is that what's happened from post COVID until now that never happened from the rest of our lifetime and every year before that is that oftentimes there are a lot of players, and you can attest to this in your years of watching sport. There are a lot of players that slip through the cracks, right? At all different levels. And maybe they're not highly recruited, for example, out of high school. Maybe they're late bloomers or they live in an area where there's just not that many eyeballs or whatever. And, they, instead of starting off their career in the big conference, they start off in a smaller conference. But they end up being really good players. And then they get, back in the day before, the transfer portal and whatnot, before all this happened, and I use college basketball as an example, there were a lot of examples where you would have these really good players at these quote unquote smaller schools. But because they played at these smaller schools, only the really, really elite ones, like the Steph Currys and the Damian Lillards of the world, like that, it was obvious regardless. But there are a lot of guys they're probably not to say that they would have been as maybe that, but they were really talented. They just never really got a crack because they didn't play it. Not even Alabama, but in a college basketball context like Kentucky or something, And what's happened now since the transfer portal is that a lot of the best teams are built through the portal, and a lot of the best players from the portal are guys that come from these smaller schools. Like, for example, with Michigan, the team that just won the championship, their best player from this past season came from UAB. And 2 years before UAB, he was playing, I think, like JUCO or something like that. And that would have never happened before that. And that's just one example. There's infinite examples. But I think what I'm trying to say is that for all the complaints about, too many transfers and, it's like the wild, wild west and whatnot. And, the coaches are always complaining and the media members are complaining and the fans are complaining. Maybe I'm in the minority. To be honest, I love the transfer portal because it's like, I do love that wild, wild west because it's the one thing that professional sports really doesn't have, which is like unlimited player movement, which is kind of cool because it's like every year you're getting a different sample size of what could be. Whereas a lot of times in pro sports, you get the same course drawn out over many different years just with a couple of tweaks. But I think in many ways it is kind of cool. And a lot of people disagree with me, and maybe that's not the point I'm trying to make. But the bigger point that I'm trying to make is that a lot of the best players that play on the best teams in college basketball come from these smaller schools. And those players wouldn't have had the chance to play for those schools in a previous environment.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying I disagree, but I think maybe the counter argument would be in college sports, there's already a lot of turnover as is because these kids are,
no, of course there has to be some sort of regulation. And then
I think part of the great things about being a fan is, obviously, well, the team, and at least in how I see sports, the team is always the success of the team is always far more important than the success of any individual player. Like I'm never gonna, I have obviously players in every sport that I love and that I admire, and I root for. But at the end of the day, like the most important thing for me is the team winning, my team winning, and that supersedes anything and everything. But also comes with that is like the players, you do build sort of like an attachment to
Yeah, I
them,
get
and
that.
so like I
And
just think
that's
about
the
it
part
like
that I don't think is important. That's not the part I'm trying to make because I agree with that. I think the part that I'm more so trying to make is just the fact that like we should lose sight of some of the positives that have come out
oh yeah,
within it.
I think like like most things, it's
And it's allowed other, like I'll give you the flip side example too, because what it allows also, and I'll use any of these different sports as an example. Maybe there's a guy who goes to a big school out of high school, maybe first year or two doesn't go the way that they expected, and then they can transfer to a different school, maybe even drop down a quote unquote level to a D1 basketball school, for example. But maybe instead of in the ACC, now you're in the ah, I don't know. Now you're in the Atlantic 10, which is still a pretty good conference, or whatever it is. And you go down to that, or the Horizon League, or the CAA, whatever it is, and then you have a really good year, and then you transfer back up a level because you've now proven what you can do. And now you go to a different school within that same tier that you were at the first time, where not to say that look, it doesn't always work out for everybody. And I do think there do need to be some regulations, like you mentioned, your Huskies, that whole Damon Williams.
Oh yeah, I was
situation
gonna
a
bring him
disaster.
up. That was gonna
Right.
be my anecdote because obviously his freshman year, he started. He only made one start, and that was the last game of the season against Oregon and Eugene. And it was only one start, but it's like, okay, this guy, and we lost the game. We got pummeled, but he was like he showed enough in terms of like, oh yeah, this guy's got like, he's an exciting talent. You know, he's an accurate passer. He's a great runner, and obviously he's so young. He's got so much area to grow. It's like, and going into his sophomore campaign this past season, he made strides, and he definitely grew. And there was a lot of things he needs to fine tune in his game, of course. There's some games I can think of that were, he just with more experience and with more polish, he would be. I just think the game against Wisconsin and Madison, I think the score was like 10-3, and it was a classic Big Ten. It's like, welcome to the, I think it was Oregon. They kind of had their welcome to the Big Ten game when they played at Kinnick this past year. And they ended up winning the game on the last second field goal, if I recall. But but it was like, yeah, this is, it's very different. I'm not saying it's more or less difficult playing away at Kinnick than it is to say, I don't know, play at in Arizona State, against a good Arizona State team.
It's just a different level to it, and different climate too. You're not used to playing in that area.
And our welcome to the Big Ten game, so to speak, was, well, I guess you could say it was the home game against Ohio State late in September, but you could argue it was the game at Wisconsin-Madison, because that's the conditions. Shout out Tony Romo. The conditions were horrific. It was snowy. It was, horrific in the sense that, for the kind of game that Jed Fish likes to play. We just, it was beautiful, like from an aesthetic standpoint. And look, I'm an AFC North football fan, so I love that kind of football. But in terms of for the sake of the Huskies in that game, it was one of those games where with a bit more experience and obviously, I don't think the game plan for that game was great either on the part of Coach Fish, but it's like you saw a lot of positives with Damon this year, and you saw some areas where he needs to improve. And it's like, okay, this is just another, we got 2 years under your belt. Now this is like junior, now we're going to start to see the fruits of our labor. And so and then all of a sudden at the end of the year, it's like, you're hearing, that he's going to be heading to LSU probably.
Okay.
And it's like,
yeah, you know what I would say?
Holy smokes, man.
So I think,
and it's so but that's just one anecdote. Because for every like Damon Williams sob story, there's also, like you said, there's like,
I know. So I agree with all that, and so that's why I didn't want to make the wrong point. The point I was trying to make is that I think there are some positives within things like the transfer portal.
Oh yeah.
Now I will say there are a lot of things within the can of worms that have been open that definitely fascinating. Like I use college basketball as an example, something that isn't really maybe getting talked about enough, but I think something that's very fascinating, and I'd be fascinated to hear other people's opinions on this. what's happening a lot in college basketball within the last couple of seasons, and then especially this offseason. It's and it'll actually tie into that 3-4 yapping episode I was talking about, because it's a little it basically pertains, and I'll use the exact fact and figures on that episode. I'll just go in a broad sense right now, not to get distracted from the main point, and I'll use the exact figures then. But basically, since the introduction of NIL and the transfer portal, which was, so if we're thinking like 2021 till now, every year from then till now, the number of players that have declared for the NBA draft before their college eligibility has come to a close has significantly gone down each year, to the point where I think 5 years ago it was over 300, and now this year it's like 70.
Wow. That's a significant decrease.
That is a massive decrease.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't need to be a mathematician or a rocket scientist to tell you that that's one absolutely mind-boggling trend.
Yeah.
Is that beforehand you'd have all these one and done, all these guys who just declare for the draft, leaving college. Now it's the complete opposite. They stay, they go back. They like I mentioned this dude at Michigan, 5-year guy. He'll be a, I know you're not a big basketball guy, but anyways, so that's one significant trend, is that more, and even in football, something that's been mentioned, even in the NFL draft, there was a lot of chatter before the NFL draft where prospects are older than they've ever been now in football. And they're playing more games because of the expanded seasons. And it's adjusted how NFL front offices think, scouts, general managers, because they're looking, that's a new factor, especially in the NFL specifically, where career shelf lives are different than in basketball and baseball and other sports.
Especially at certain positions.
That's another factor that they've had to consider, and that's a separate can of worms. But with basketball, so there's been this significant shift, obviously, in players not immediately jumping into the draft. Like, players that would have been a slam dunk to declare for the draft after 1 year are coming back for a second year. Guys that would have been a slam dunk to go after a second year are even coming back for a third year. Not because they wouldn't go in the first round, but...
Now let me ask you this: has that aided them in their development as prospects, as players?
In some cases, it has
helped them reach to their full potential.
Some cases it has, some it hasn't.
We could do track record.
We could do a deep dive on that. I mean, it's not. It's like, but then there's the part that I want to bring up that I think we're talking about, the can of worms. Like, how do you regulate some of this stuff? So this is the part that's been fascinating, that not a lot of people maybe know or are talking about, or if they do know about it and talk about it, it's not really being talked about in like national media circles as much. I mean, maybe a little bit, but not in like the ones that get all the eyeballs, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's basically what you're getting now, is you're getting a lot of guys that are signing from overseas, that are overseas professionals over the age of 17, 18, 19. So they're like 22, 23, and they come over from, Europe, for example, and they sign with the team in college basketball as freshmen.
Oh, wow.
So they come over basically as like 22, 23, 24-year-old freshmen from having played like X amount of seasons professionally. And then, there was a big controversy. Like, there was one guy who got drafted by the Knicks, never really played, but he got drafted, and then ended up playing for Baylor. I think now he's actually in the transfer portal as well. There was the example of a guy at Alabama who played at Alabama, declared for the draft, left Alabama for 2 years, and then played like 5 games for Alabama with the restraining order until they removed that restraining order and got kicked off the team again. There's a couple of examples of guys who have played in the NBA G League, never went to college, but played in the G League for a couple of seasons, and now they're going to be playing college basketball this upcoming season as college freshmen, even though They played in summer league, the NBA G League, but now they're going back to college.
But they never played like an official regular season NBA game.
There's one guy who did play in an NBA game who's trying to go back to college, and that case is actually still open, I think. So I don't think there's been a decision on that from the last I checked. But there's basically all these different can of worms that basketball specifically, that no other collegiate sport has really had to deal with, to my understanding, which is these different tent poles of, like, there are examples, even, just the other day, there's this guy who got drafted with I think it was like the second to last pick of this last draft in the NBA draft. Didn't come over. He got drafted, but he didn't come over to the league. He stayed overseas, and now he's looking to sign and play in college this year, even though he got drafted this past year. Wow. And he's going to sign probably. I don't know. Last I checked, he hadn't. Maybe he has. But the rumor is, he's out, maybe on the market. He might get about upwards of anywhere from maybe 5 to 7 million. Because, but yeah, man, it's just, I think these are a lot of fascinating things. So yeah, I do think there needs to be some level of regulation. Like, I think you can find a way to not take away from the positive aspects of it without getting rid of the full scope of the flaws within it. Like we always talked about this before, like, they could have dealt with this many years ago, and it wouldn't have been like this. But they kicked the can down the road because they figured they were just going to keep riding with it until they couldn't anymore. And then the NCAA got neutered, and then it opened up this big can of worms. And now you've got basically it's like pay for play. It makes. You've got like $20 million teams out there, $40 million teams in football, $20 million basketball teams. We're just throwing around money like like it's nothing, and that's a different conversation, obviously. But I don't know, man. I think there's a lot of fascinating elements that we could get into there. I didn't mean to go on a college basketball tangent. I wasn't planning to do that. I was actually saving that for a couple of days from now. But I guess I got rid of the jargon stuff so I can do the actual basketball stuff, which I want to do, which is more important to me. So that actually works out, selfishly speaking. But I do kind of want to get your thoughts a little bit while we're still here, going all the way back to that Bayern PSG match. Just kind of setting the stage for that second leg in Munich, and just kind of looking back at that match in Paris. What do you expect for the second leg, and maybe just some overall thoughts on the first leg that you would like to make note of as well?
Well, I'm going to be a little bit of a politician here. I'm going to kind of pivot back to you and say, or rather, and ask,
okay.
Or I guess I'll say, you at the day after the match, you sent me a text saying, like,
oh yeah,
that was
a spectacular, and yeah, somewhere along the lines. That's the beauty of our conversation, man. We go all over the place. But yeah, basically.
So that's obviously the game, which I'll get into in a little bit. But
no, I said yeah, because I don't basically.
Not that I was necessarily surprised by the veracity of that statement, but because your track record, I should say you've watched a ton of sports over the years and a ton of games, big games.
Yeah, I just thought that was about as good of a match in any sport that I've seen in a really long time. I just thought it was end to end. It really was like, I think the commentary team, Clive and Rob Green.
Tilsey and Rob Green.
I think they kind of alluded to it. It really was like watching an NBA game on a football pitch. It just felt like there was, not to say that I don't mind different play styles of the beautiful game, but it's just the fact that they both play the similar ways with similar styles and incredible talents, and the fact that you had all these spectacular players who were basically all on their day, basically, and it's just all the perfect conditions were there to where it just lended to this spectacular 5-4 match where in reality it really could have been like 9-8. and then just the individual brilliance of all these different players on both sides. I mean, with your beloved Bayern, I mean, listen, I don't have the same level of knowledge that you and others do, but if that Olise guy is not the best in the world, I mean, he's pretty damn close. Even just watching that match, I mean, we were watching that like we mentioned earlier. We were silent, we weren't talking, and that was probably the first, you know, I mean, I've watched matches throughout. You mentioned the Premier League. Like, I'll watch some of like the USA matches or like the NBC matches on Saturdays and Sundays, and I'll watch some of the Champions League when I get the chance. But like, it's been a while since I really was able to fully immerse myself in the 90 minutes like that, and really just to be able to lock into what's going on and really like process what's happening. And just within the first probably like 5 minutes of the match, I was sitting there and first thing I was thinking was like, this Elise guy is fucking incredible, man. I mean, it's not like, I mean, he actually missed the chance pretty early in the match before the first goal, and that's what the commentary team was highlighting.
It was after the first goal. We were up 1-0, and after the Kane penalty, we were up 1-0, and Elise had that chance.
Yeah, and
could have made it 2-0.
But he was just doing some things like just, he's just like, on the ball, like stuff like that. He's just making passes. But just the way that he's doing it, if you cut those clips up and you put them on a highlight room, and you could watch that shit for hours. I mean, it was breathtaking to watch. I mean, it was like the dude, it was like he had not only did it feel like he had the ball on a string, it felt like he was one of those ventriloquists. And he was just like, everybody was just kind of like his little puppet master. And you know what he's going to do. And then, I mean, the Harry Kane, Luis Diaz, and then that's just the attack, and then and that's not even mentioning PSG, and you've got fucking Kvaratskhelia. How do you say it?
Kvaratskhelia. I mean,
holy smokes, man! I mean, you can take it from here,
Dembele.
Man.
Yeah, dude, the game was obviously the disclaimers. As you said, I'm a Bayern fan,
but you can look at it from an objective lens as well.
And I mean, I think I can try looking at it in two different lenses. One lens is a Bayern fan. One try to be a bit more objective and neutral. But yeah, so it was as much of a spectacle. I mean, I think everything that needs to be said about that game has already been said. Now that we're a week removed, it truly was. A lot of times you have these heavyweight matchups that people look forward to and kind of hype up, and not always, but sometimes they kind of fall short of what they're hyped up to be from a spectacle standpoint and just a competitive standpoint. But this was one of those. This was not one of those cases. This was, I mean, again, as a Bayern fan, kind of leave that game in a weird way. I'm frustrated, but also in some ways relieved.
A little bit of both.
So yeah, and I say it because frustrated because, like you said, we had. There was no phase in the game really where I would say that we outplayed them. I think it was truly neck and neck. It was truly like just an even fight. And if anything, they kind of in the beginning of the second half, they kind of, I thought, were starting to play in a way that was like, okay, we need to kind of stable ourselves up a little bit because this might get a little ugly. Just for brief periods, because we were always posing threats on the attack, and both teams were. That was the point. And I think one of my takeaways from the game was that I guess I'm not entirely surprised, but still a little bit struck by how basically, as you know, and we'll praise a lot of the individual players in the pitch that night, all 22. But I was a little struck by how invisible the midfields were. And I don't think that's a criticism of the midfields. I think it's just the fact that I don't think neither team allowed the other to any time on the ball really to kind of pick passes, here and there, and pick apart the defense, like both teams are so accustomed to doing in their domestic leagues. So guys like Vitinha. I mean, Vitinha is Wow. I mean, last
Spectacular
year,
player, man.
last season was when I really was first exposed to him. I'm not gonna act like I kind of had late exposure to him, probably compared to most people, soccer fans. But I mean, watching him and as part of that Paris team last season, a Paris team that just ran riot through Europe in the second half of last season, on their way to a 5-0 win in the Champions League final against Inter in Munich. He was such a big part of that team, and just he's kind of like that midfield maestro, where he's a conductor essentially, and he's so tidy on the ball and just so clever. He's not a physically imposing guy. I mean, he's tiny, but it's like that almost doesn't even matter because he's just so good with the ball, so good. And just as a quick side tangent, I mean, we'll talk about the World Cup ad nauseum in due time, but Portugal, I mean, Vitinha is going to play a big part in whatever Portugal does this summer. And, I as a Portugal fan, I think, well, I'm not a Portugal fan, but if I were a Portugal fan, I would be excited to watch a lot of those. If you look at Paris, the squad, I mean, yeah, they're a French team, a French club, but the bulk of the core of that team, well, maybe not the core, but the majority, the most represented nation in their starting 11 is Portugal. It's Portuguese players.
That Nuno Mendes guy's a treat.
Nuno Mendes, Ruben Neves, Vitinha, as we, so. But anyway, and obviously, Kimmich is one on our side, one of the more, I think, underrated players in the past 10 years. The guy's is so versatile, and I have never seen him like whether it's for Bayern or Germany, both at club and national team level, like the guy just never misses a minute. I think you mentioned in a recent recording that he's kind of like just like a robot. And
that's a compliment.
I think it's a compliment, but I would even go as further to say because robot almost he's a great footballer too. Like not only does he have the just the stamina and the endurance, and his body is really held up. And I always think of him. He's 31, I think. But I still think of him as like the young right back that was breaking into into Bayern and to the Germany team, and breaking into a team that had a lot of established players, with Bayern, Thomas Muller, Jerome Boateng, Manuel Neuer. With the national team, you got Toni Kroos in there. Like he was the guy. Kimmich was the guy that was kind of like, he was the young gun. I mean, he wasn't part of the 2014 squad that won the World Cup, but he was part of the team in the 2016 team in the Euros. And I mean, he's been a great player for us. And so I was struck by how invisible, like, or how ineffective that he and Vitinha were, and Pavlovic on our side as well. Pavlovic, by the way, is a young player, 21, who I think has got a great future ahead of him. Probably out of all the players in their team, everyone's going to talk about Kane and Olise, Luis Diaz, rightfully so. But Pavlovic is kind of one of the. He's been such a big player for us this season, and he may be not a household name yet, but he's someone to I hope he plays a big role for Germany this summer, because I think he's a great player, and I think he's got a real good future ahead of him. So, but yeah, with that being said, like I'm just a little surprised at how ineffective the two midfields were, or how it was. Like you said, it was like a basketball game. It was almost like it was just like the two sets of front three were just exchanging blows and running on each end of the pitch, and so from that standpoint, it was exciting. Even as a Bayern fan, I mean, it was, especially when we went up 1-0 on the penalty. I thought it was I have to look back at the replay, but I still think I thought it was a fair call to give the penalty. You could honestly make an argument that maybe he's a bit harsh, but nevertheless, Harry Kane is always gonna slot it home from the spot. I guess unless it's the quarterfinals of a World Cup, but he has the opportunity to make amends for that this summer for sure. And then Elise had that chance to make it 2-0. That's one of those opportunities that he finishes 99% of the time. I mean, I've seen him all season long, dude. In the Bundesliga and the Champions League, this guy has been scoring goals. I mean, and very much is similar-esque to Arjen Robben would, where he would cut inside on his left foot. But unlike Robben, he can also play it out. He can stay out wide on his right foot. The great thing about Elise is when he gets the ball, he's so hard to. Sometimes you know what he's doing, but there's times where it's like what he does is so unique because a lot of wingers will they'll kind of position their bodies to kind of give you an indication of where they're going to run. With him, he will lay the ball down at his feet and he will square you up, shoulder to shoulder against the defender, and he can go left, he can go right. If he's being closed down by defender, what Elise will do, he'll play a quick pass, and then from there Kimmich or whoever will play a quick 1-2, play the ball into space, take advantage of the fact that he's being closed down by two guys, or on the contrary, if the fullback gives Elise space, what he'll do is he'll take him on, he'll run at him. So often you see these guys nowadays play a sideways pass, play a backwards pass. He will take you on, and he's very much like a street footballer in that sense, kind of like a basketball player too, where he's gonna fancy himself. He doesn't care who it is. He doesn't care who the defender is. He's gonna take you on, and he's gonna beat you. He's been outstanding. And look, this we'll get back to the game, but as this spread a little bit of propaganda. Like before, look, we talked about him when he was at Crystal Palace. Here and there, we wouldn't talk about it all the time, but we talk because when Tottenham would play at Sellers Park, or when they would come to North London, it's like, this Elise guy's pretty nice. And I'm a big FIFA player, so sometimes I like to just I'll use some Crystal Palace in there because they've had some nice players over the years too. And they got a lot of young. They've had. I mean, this is a team that's been in the Premier League for, I think, outside the Big Six and Everton, they are the longest tenured Premier League club, and they've been they've been a really solid club in the Premier League for many years. Very stable. They've had a lot of good players over the years. Obviously, they've never been good enough to qualify for a European or at least through. They did qualify for European, the Europa League or the Europa Conference League. They had moved down by virtue of winning the FA Cup last year. But there's a reason why they've not suffered the fate that so many clubs have coming up from the Championship. They've had a lot of great players, and one of those players is Michael Elise. And like I said, we've talked about him when he was at Crystal Palace, but and anyway, when he was signed with Bayern, it was one of those like, okay, like I'm familiar with him. He seems like it's like a kind of like a signing where it's like, okay, not a lot of big clubs were linked to him at the time, so it's like it's kind of came out of nowhere and to some degree, and it's like, well, let's see what he can do. I mean, he was a nice, liked what I saw when he was at Palace, and let's see where he can take his game. But I loved the transfer when it happened. Because even at Palace, he displayed a lot of individual talent, and I think that's something that really struck you too. As thrilled as I was with the signing, and as optimistic as I was, and as well as I thought he would do, last season in his first season in the Bayern shirt, he was sensational. He was better than I had anticipated. He adjusted so well, much better than I thought. Than even I, as someone who's maybe who I would characterize myself, as a big fan of his. I was struck by how well he adjusted to the league, how well he adjusted to more so the squad. I mean, it's obviously playing in a team like Bayern is very different from playing like a team, a Crystal Palace team where in the Premier League they're not going to have a lot of the ball. They're going to have a lot of space in behind, because they don't have much of the ball. But with Bayern, it's like you're going to have the ball a lot. You're going to be playing in the opposition's half quite a bit, and that's a lot. It's ideal if you're a midfielder, if you're a center back or a defender, but it can be hard if you're, especially as a winger. We saw it with Leroy Sané when he joined Bayern. I thought he was a player who just, he's a great individual talent with a lot of pace, but because there's not a lot of space left in behind, for that teams leave when they play Bayern, like he was just never able to kind of show what he had, what the same individual brilliance he had in his Schalke days or in his Man City days. Not to say that Man City don't play with a lot of possession as well, but in the Premier League they do leave a bit more space. I mean, against Bayern, teams are always going to hunker down. So, but even in spite of all that, he's just a magician on the ball. You give him space, he's going to beat you one-on-one. You close him down, he's going to play a quick pass and do something clever with the ball. He's going to lay it off to an open teammate, and and so his first season was great with us, but this year he's just taking it to a whole nother level, and it's been just a joy to watch. I mean, I don't think there's not many players in any sport that really that I can recall having as much of a just having an absolute joy just watching. So, I mean, I think it's a long-winded way of saying as much as we were a fan of his.
He's far surpassed
what we would have envisioned for him.
Oh,
after last season, we were, you start to see the fruits of the labor coming to fruition, but I mean, this season he's just taking it to another level. And I think he's got to be a front runner for the Ballon d'Or. Never thought I'd bring up the Ballon d'Or, by the way. I'm only bringing it up because of Elise, but I couldn't give a stuff about that award. I mean, I'll individual awards be damned. But
talk about it.
No.
I hate that award.
But just
spread some Manuel Neuer propaganda while you're at it too, man.
Yeah, no. I mean, look. No. Both. Look, Elise's been outstanding. But at this point, everyone's waxed poetic about him at this point. So there's only so much I can say. I think it's just kind of sort of, just.
Well, there might be someone out there who hasn't watched them, and now they will.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just one, like I said, one of the most fun players to watch in all sports right now. So, and yeah, best. I mean, one of the best players in the world at the moment, and that's stating the obvious, but it needs to be said. So, but back to the game, and a game, of course, where he played well, and he was amazing in the 2 legs against Real Madrid too, especially in that first leg in Madrid. I mean, that was a great game too. That was as entertaining as this game in Paris, but just I think. I'm a little the first Paris goal is a little bit frustrating because I think in a game where that finished 5-4, there weren't really many, I would say, individual defensive mistakes. Like, it wasn't as though the back lines had any howlers, or the goalkeepers had. I mean, maybe Neuer could have done a bit better on the last PSG goal. I think he was caught a little bit flat-footed, but. And I think Paris's first goal, I brought that up because Stanisic, I thought, played a little bit too tight to Kvaratskhelia because, I mean, they play a through ball to him down the wing, and I mean, Stanisic, he does a good job of making a recovery run, but Kvaratskhelia, even he caught up to Kvaratskhelia, but it didn't matter because the guy. I mean, I spread some Elise propaganda. It's only right that I give some plaudits to Kvaratskhelia because what a player, man. He did in a similar fashion. He cut inside to his right, and he's been doing that all season. And I mean, that in that round of 16 against Chelsea, he kind of took that first leg almost all by himself. I mean, I mentioned it in my my last time on the show, but that PSG Chelsea game, round of 16, first leg was. I mean, I wasn't as captivating as this, but it was it was a captivating game in its own right. And I thought, to Chelsea's credit, they played PSG pretty well for those first 70 minutes. I mean, in some phases of the game, I thought they were maybe even the better team. But like I said, a couple goalkeeper howlers and individual brilliance from Kvaratskhelia. The guy is just amazing, and it's a damn shame that we won't see him at the World Cup, obviously, this summer. One of those brilliant players who unfortunately, the country, Georgia didn't qualify for the World Cup. Well, I mean, as expected, but it's just a bummer. But as far as he was brilliant on the night last week as well. Dembele too, Desiree Doué, and the guys that they got coming off the bench, Bradley Barcola. I mean, holy smokes, man! it's ridiculous. I mean, Paris. They're defending champs, and they showed why last week. We gave them a good game, and I think we'll probably feel like we obviously have a chance going into the second leg. And I say, I open by saying, like, part of me is frustrated, but part of me is relieved. Part of me is frustrated because I feel like we had, like I said, we had an opportunity to go up 2-0 with that Elise chance. And that, man, that penalty that was given to Paris after the Alphonso Davies alleged handball. I mean, dude, look, everyone's seen the replays by now. You be the judge, but and maybe I am being a little bit biased, but that I'm sorry. What is he supposed to do? Because it's like, as a defender, you're told. I mean, nowadays it's like, as a defender, you're told to put your hands behind your back but it's like, that's not a natural position to be in, especially if you're trying to keep up pace with, I forgot who it was, it might have been Doué, because it was on the right hand side, Paris's right hand side. But it's like, if you're running if you're running an attacker, trying to contain him, like, it's really hard to do so with your hands like behind your back, and you have to do that, so to speak, once you get in the penalty box, because if your hands slightly in an unnatural position, which is like kind of like, it's one of those arbitrary terms. Yeah, unnatural. It seems straightforward enough, but
it's arbitrary enough that it makes it like almost they need to change the rule a little bit, right?
Yeah, it's or just be consistent, because I feel like we say all the time, like, whatever you're gonna call, whatever the game is, whatever the sport is, we'll have our own interpretations, our own opinions as to what constitutes a catch, or
but that's the NFL doesn't know what a catch is,
right? I mean, most people have an idea of what constitutes a catch, but apparently the NFL doesn't. But whatever we think is a catch, whatever we think is a handball, let's just at least just be consistent. Even if just consistency is the main thing. Now, that's not to say that you can come up with any rule and it can be a terrible rule as long as you're consistent. Then that's fine. No, of course, there has to be some common sense applied as well. But consistency is the main thing. And I just feel like across the board, the handball rule has just been between, the Premier League has their own interpretation of what's a handball. UEFA has their own interpretation. FIFA, the laws. It just
needs to be one universal rule, right?
Yeah, or just be consistent, because that's. And I don't think that I thought that it was just harsh, man. I wasn't mad at Davies, because it's like, what is he supposed to do there? I mean, the ball, he had no time to react. I don't know. I mean, how much of it you recall, but it's like he's right in front of the attacker. The attacker, tries to play a ball, and
I feel like sometimes it's different. When it's like sometimes. I always think, when I think of like an obvious handball, the first thing that always comes to mind is the Luis Suarez, Uruguay, Ghana in the World Cup.
Oh my God! Well,
that's always the first one that comes to mind. But yeah, there are a lot, like, I've seen where it'll just be like a rocket off of someone's boot, and their arm will just kind of be like you said, they're not trying to knock it down. Their arms aren't in a unnatural position. But like you said, I think there's a different the interpretation of it is what's the difference between unnatural versus it looks like it, if you know what I mean? Like it doesn't look like it, but it by maybe the definition of the rule, maybe it could be, but it's not intentional. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like
Maybe there's a difference between intent
versus
and naturality.
right.
Like I don't think he's trying to do that.
Of course not.
But within the interpretation of the rule, I think they don't look at they look at the they don't look at it as far as he wasn't trying to. They look at it as that's what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I mean, we could be here for a while.
No, I know. I look, it was a brilliant game. I don't want to. I don't want to soil it by just.
No, I know.
Because
but it's a worthy conversation. Because
I look back at I don't know if you remember Euro 2024, the quarterfinals, Germany versus Spain. Jamal Musiala from outside the box hits a rocket. Marc Cucurella, he's got his hand like all the way out here, and he's bringing it to his body, but it's like it was. I would call it an unnatural position. It was not near it was not even close to the side.
So basically what you're saying,
but they did not call that a handball. They did not, and obviously this is 2 years ago. I think they have changed.
But it's the lack of consistency.
It's like that's not a handball, but the Davies one is. I mean, it's.
So that's the frustration.
Like, if anyone who's listening to this, look up Jamal. Compare the two. The one non-handball and the other handball, and
I'm with you.
It's frustrating, but again, I'll
listen. It's a valid part of the conversation because I always feel like, you always want to find the tightrope between. You don't want to be one of those guys who always blast referees and whatnot. Because I get it. It's a thankless job. It's a really hard job.
It's a hard job.
It's a hard job, man. My argument has always been that for these billion-dollar leagues, they should just invest the money and hire not only full-time, but get more of them out there.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, the field ref. I forgot who the referee was
because they can't see everything.
But no, it's like so I don't even put much of my blame on him. I say the VAR. They got
That's what I'm saying. I don't blame the referees. I blame the replay a little bit sometimes in that instance.
But
yeah, I get you, man. I will say. I do kind of so heading into the second leg in Munich. Do you expect it to be a similar pace match, or do you think it might bog down a little bit more? What do you anticipate there?
I really think it's going to be very much the same, more the same.
More of the same.
If it isn't, I'll eat my words, but like the frustration from the first leg, obviously, like I said, that could have gone up 2-0. Then we had the handball, and then we go into halftime down 3-2. Paris start the second half great. They go up, they get another 2 goals. And I do think after watching a couple of the replays for, I think it was the fifth of Paris's goals, I do think Neuer could have done a bit better to not be as flat-footed as he was. But, I mean, that might be being harsh because the quality of shots in that entire game were just stupendous on both sides. But to be down 5-2 at that point, that's when it's like, as a Bayern fan, it was deflating. But as a Bayern fan, also as a neutral, you just never felt like, it's 5-2, but you just feel like there's still a lot left in this match. Like there's still more goals to be had in here because it was that open of a game, and obviously to get the 2 goals. To make it 5-4, that fourth goal for Bayern, the Luis Diaz, what a tremendous goal! Holy smokes! But even better, the pass that was played by Harry Kane was just sensational, man. I think again by now it's well established. He's the best striker in the world. He's an amazing finisher, but man, he plays the passes like some of the best midfielders. We talk about Vitinha. That dude's like Harry Kane can play play passes with the best of them as well, and so that was for it to be a 5-4 game. I think in the first leg, just putting everything aside, I think it was a pretty fair result. So like I said, thankfully, it we were able to close down Paris's the deficit and get out of there with at least nothing worse than a 1-goal deficit. But I think it was the right result too, just in general for both teams, given how they both played. And yeah, it was really just a mesmerizing spectacle. And I think the second leg, I think it'll be a lot more the same. So that bodes well for football fans. And whatever happens, I think we can all just appreciate what we watched in these 2 legs, and to see these 2 teams do what they did in Paris and what I think they'll do in Munich. It's just I think we all owe them a lot of gratitude as sports fans, as soccer fans, and so I think just from like a tactical, analytical standpoint, I think because Bayern have are down a goal and need to make up some ground. They're obviously going to be very proactive. I don't know how much, honestly. I think even if we were a goal up, even if the tie was level, or if Bayern were a goal up, I still think they'd probably approach the game very much the same. That's how Company is. And also, shout out to both managers. I don't think we've mentioned them up to this point yet, but both Company and Luis Enrique have done sensational jobs with both these teams. So, and they're both very stubborn and they're sort of the way they approach the game in a good way, because they're both. I think they're both going to approach the game the same, and they're both going to be aggressive, and they're both going to be progressive. And I think that, I think Bayern will try to take it. We'll have a lot of chances, but so will Paris, and I think that's going to be the nature of it. Bayern will probably have a bit more of the ball, especially playing at home. But it's one of those things against Madrid, you can fault Madrid for many reasons as a team, but the players that they have up top with Vini and of course Mbappe, who every time he's got the ball at his feet is one of the scariest things in sports. As someone who's fans of Bayern and obviously the German national team, gone up against PSG and Real Madrid in France many times over the years, having to go up against that guy. My brother, me and my brother as Anaheim Ducks fans, it's very similar to how we feel when we have to go against Connor McDavid. It's a very similar effect where it's like, my God, dude, the guy went, forget, a lot of people want to talk about his character and this and that, but dude, just as a footballer, the guy is just a freak of nature, a tour de force. And so, I think for as much as Real Madrid are a bit dysfunctional as a team, they pose significant threat whenever they got the ball back, whenever they won the ball, whenever we turned it over, because we leave a lot of space in behind. Not as much as Barcelona do when they get the ball turned over on them. I think anyone who compares Luis Enrique and Vincent Kompany to the way that Hansi Flick plays, it's similar in the sense that they both play high lines, they both want to play forward, both want to squeeze the game, high press. But I think the difference is Enrique and Kompany are a bit more pragmatic. The center backs play a bit deeper than they do at Barcelona with Flick. I mean, that Flick plays some kamikaze football, man. I mean, it makes for some fun watches, but so I don't know if it's not gonna be. I don't want to give the impression it's gonna be just a completely wide open, like there's gonna be so much space left in behind by both defenses, because both defenses are really good. Marquinhos is he's got a lot of years under his belt, but he's still a good player, and Upamecano and Ta are a solid center back duo, and there's going to be, but there'll definitely be some space left in behind where Paris can exploit Bayern. And so Bayern just have to be very careful with how they play their passes. while also obviously being, having the same sort of, the urgency that's requisite of, trying to close down a lead against such a great team in Paris. It's like maybe play a bit more of a patient game, maybe kind of concede that the ball just a bit more than they normally would, and see if you can take this Bayern teams and take them to the cleaners on the counter. There's going to be a couple big chances for them. There just will be, and it's just a matter of will Bayern center backs be quick enough to close them down? Hope Davies will be important for Bayern in that regard, playing left back. He's really good at recovering, and then Neuer will have to probably make some big saves as well, especially again with the front three of Paris. It's just they're gonna get some quality. They won't even need maybe the space that I'm talking about, because it's like if they have the ball in a danger area, inside or outside the box, they're always a threat. Any one of those three guys can curl one in from anywhere, or just strike one from anywhere. So I imagine it's going to be Doué playing on the right. It might be Barcola. Either way,
pick your
poison. Yeah. So I think it's going to be a lot more the same, and I think that bodes well, like I said, for everybody, for the neutral, and for all fans, because I think it's just one of those like kick back and relax. So how do you feel about the game going? I mean, especially as a neutral, I think I
think just to kind of put a bow on things, and maybe just I'll be fascinated to see if the second leg is more the same as the first. I would probably agree with you. I think it might be one of those things where it'll be the same end to end, but just a matter of the goals scored. That part I couldn't tell you, but I do think it's going to be. I really wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being one of those things, tied on aggregate, goes to penalty sort of deal. Or I think it's going to be an end to end, back and forth. It's going to be an emotional roller coaster for you, especially, and I think for me as a neutral, I'm just really excited to see, because I do expect more of the same. I think what you said. I don't think either manager is going to approach it any differently. And I think both managers know that they can't play any other way, because the other one will sniff blood in the water. And it's a shame that one of them has to lose, to be honest with you. I think and then it'll be interesting to see who ends up, obviously who wins, and then just kind of with the other leg having kind of concluded already, with Arsenal and Atletico, with Arsenal moving through, that obviously being a stylistically different Champions League tie for sure.
Yeah.
I think it'll be and we can touch on that maybe another time. Yeah, but actually we could touch on it real quick before we kind of put up on it, just to get your thoughts real quick on that Arsenal Atletico tie. On the other end of the bracket there.
Yeah, well, I guess you could say it finished in a way that a lot of people expected. Arsenal,
cagey, right?
Cagey, low scoring. I think. The first leg, 2 goals. It was 1-1, and both goals were from spot kicks. So, one goal from open play in 180 minutes. So that'll be a big talking point for the people who love to trash on the Arsenal and Atletico way of playing. It kind of, I think it's the result most people expected, and it was the manner in which most people expected. I think you could say it's a bit of a bummer that Paris and Bayern as semifinals. It should probably be the final, but
that's just how it goes.
Yeah,
and honestly, I will say
we're lucky because we get to see it twice.
I was actually about to say the same thing, and
oftentimes in finals.
And I was going to say what's good about it. Not only you get to see them twice, but I think, as that atmosphere in Paris was spectacular.
Yeah, it was.
And I expect the
atmosphere.
It
always is. And
then I expect the atmosphere in Munich to be just as spectacular in its own right.
Oh yeah.
But I think just as far as Arsenal Atletico, like you said, a lot will be made about the tactical element and just the stylistic contrast between
I mean,
PSG and Bayern.
and to be fair, it is a stark contrast. You know, it's hard. You can't not highlight when you compare the two semifinals and how the you know the two sets of teams.
So how would you feel about real quick before we kind of wrap it up? Just as far as the tacticality of both, Arsenal with Arteta and then Atletico with Simeone, do you feel like maybe the perception? How accurate is the perception to reality in your mind, like as far as the narrative that surrounds it?
Well, it's obviously, I mean, I think it's legitimate. The reason why we kind of had, they've kind of become a meme at this point and how they play. It's because it's based in substance. I mean, especially when you compare the contrast in how they played from the beginning of the season, the first half season to the second half season. The first half season, Arsenal were a lot more free flowing in how they played. They're a lot more, imaginative, a lot more progressive, a lot more, taking the game to the opponent. They did score a lot of a lot of set piece goals, and even going back to last year as well. I mean, maybe my memory's deceiving me, but like Arsenal were not this. They were not the super pragmatic team. I thought they were largely a free flowing team. Now, no one's going to confuse them with the Bayern or Paris team of this year or the Liverpool teams under Klopp. They've never been like that. They've never been entertaining to that degree. But I mean, they were a much more of a free flowing team and setup than they've been since the second half of this season, where they've been a lot more. You kind of get the sense that they were in a position in the Premier League, especially where it's like they kind of get the sense like, okay, we're starting to the title's within grasp. So now we just got to make sure we don't do anything to muck it up. So maybe maybe that forced Arteta to kind of play a bit more of a shell, kind of, just like, kind of almost playing not to lose, so to speak. So yeah, and they have played a bit more in that conservative way, and as many would say, like in a terrorist way, and I mean, largely it's true, but but having said that, they find themselves in a position where they're in the Champions League final, which they haven't been in the Champions League final since 2006 when they lost to Barcelona. So it's been 20 years, and that's a huge feat for the club, and domestically in the Premier League, something that they're very hungry for. They're in a position to really win. Now they're really in a position to win the league now, with City dropping points at Hill Dickinson on Merseyside yesterday in that thrilling 3-3 game. Arsenal, it's in their hands again. So they're in a position now, in spite of all the negative sort of rhetoric around them. And again, I'm not a lot of it. Again, if you're watching, you're watching Arsenal if you're an Arsenal fan, or if you enjoy torture, because at least in the second half of the season, they've just not been the most entertaining side. And if you watch football for pure, just goals and entertainment and beautiful style of play, you're not going to tune into an Arsenal game. But yeah, so while
and I don't think they would care as long.
No, yeah, exactly. And again, so as much as that sort of rhetoric is
out there,
justified and correct in terms of like, yeah, they don't play beautiful football. At the end of the day, they could end up with one, maybe even two big major trophies. I mean, they could win. They could still win the Premier League and the Champions League. I'm not saying they will. I wouldn't put my money on them winning the Champions League, but right now they're in pole position to win the Premier League. And obviously, it's football. It's the Premier League. Anything can happen. We've seen this movie before, as you've reminded many times. Like, there's probably a part of you that still thinks like,
I still think City's gonna win the Premier League.
And yeah, I mean, it's
But like you said, the supporters are they're hungry for it.
Yeah, and it's like
this is as close as they've been. I mean, they've been knocking on the door for a couple of years now.
For a couple of years now, Arteta's done a really good job of
They've been
building
right
them up.
there, yeah. And I will say, just it'll be fun in many ways. I'm glad that Paris and Bayern is the semifinal for three reasons. We mentioned two of them: the fact they get to play twice, and the fact that it gets to be a home and home instead of just a one-off in a neutral venue. And then I think the one part that I do enjoy is that I think with Arsenal in the final, not only the stylistic contrast of that, but I think that could lend itself better in a one-off than in a two-legged tie home and home. And so I think it'll make for a better match in that aspect as well, where I think Arsenal is muck it up style in a one-off and a final.
And because you remember, that's how finals are often played.
Yeah,
like the World Cup final in Qatar. That's an exception, not the rule.
Yeah,
the way that they play. I mean, most finals are cagey, and that will, like you said, that will probably suit Arsenal. I mean, I'm not going to go.
With the stylistic contrast of which Arsenal's going to try to muck it up, make it ugly.
Yep.
And
Paris or Bayern, whoever it's going to be, they're going to want to. They're going to.
And it's going to be a battle of wills, and it's going to be a fun tactical battle for a final. And I think I'm really excited for that, just that stylistic clash, because as we always like to say, there's not one way to do things.
No,
to do something.
And I think we can both agree. Like, at the end of the day, obviously we would prefer to play beautiful football.
Yeah, but the results are obvious.
But the foremost important thing is winning.
Yeah.
And if it's whether it's Hansi Flick and you're playing kamikaze football, or you're Didier Deschamps and you're playing football like you're Luxembourg with when you've got world class footballers all around. At the end of the day, if you win,
you win.
Who gives a stuff?
Yeah. Who cares how it looks, right?
I mean, the only people who are going to be laughing in the end are the people, the fans who end up with the trophy. So
it's like, who cares if it's entertaining or not? We're not here to entertain. We're not, this is sport. And I think sometimes that's what I always like to tell you. It's like, I always like to talk about on here. It's been a while since I mentioned. It's like the contrast between sometimes the way that it's marketed is, it's entertainment. I've never looked at sports as entertainment. No. There are a lot of games I watch and I think to myself, like, dude, why am I doing this to myself? Like, I'm torturing myself. But I love that too. But then that's why I do it. Like, dude, listen, I watched watching
the Browns and Steelers have a field goal fest and that dump that is the mistake by the lake over there in Cleveland. I mean, it's not pleasing on the eyes, but dude, I live for that, man. Like it's
and I love that. That's what I'm saying. Like, but that's what I say. I love that too, man.
Yeah, dude. Trust me. I look again to make ourselves very clear.
Yeah.
We want free flowing football. We want you, especially you in football and American football. You want your quarterback gunslinging that thing all around.
But you know what? Let me make that important distinction. Listen, I'll get the reason why I love sports, all sports, is because of the stylistic contrast, the tacticality.
If every team played the same way,
it wouldn't be fun.
It wouldn't be fun, yeah.
There's nothing I love more than like I love watching when they're depending, because you're either going to get like two teams that muck it up. You mentioned like the Browns and the Steelers, they're both going to muck it up. There's the like I always remember you mentioned American football. I always remember that Chiefs Rams Monday Night Football game from
55 to 52 or whatever it was at the Coliseum,
and they were just going back and forth and back and forth.
Gosh.
And both are great. Yeah, and I will watch both. And then so for me, I think if everybody played the same, what would be the fun in that? If everybody had, and that goes for life too. If everybody thought the same, like if everybody thought the way that I did, that would suck. What makes it fun is, this person believes we should play this way. The other person thinks we should play another way. Sometimes one is right, sometimes the other isn't.
We all have different ways of expressing ourselves.
And each sport lends itself with many similarities. So like there's overlap between every sport. I mean, you said it the first time you hear about how, and I never thought about it before, but you had mentioned that, every sport is about creating space, finding space, and closing space. And I'll take it a step further. Every sport is about finding ways to attack the opposition and finding ways to make sure that you don't, if it's like a tactical battle in that sense, you have to find ways to make sure that you're inflicting damage, but you're also not exposing yourself to getting hurt either. And
mitigating it, inflicting damage
exactly.
while mitigating it.
And there are many different ways of approaching it. Like every sport's got different sporting cycles, different styles of play. And that's something I really want to keep highlighting and analyzing with all these different sports is that there's not just one way to play.
No, yeah, and it's fun to clown. It's fun to clown the Arthur Smiths of the world.
And you know what? I'm gonna be honest. I love watching any game. Like some people, something that I always wanted to change the rhetoric of. Like if you go online, especially basketball. That's why I hate basketball rhetoric, and that's honestly why I haven't really talked about basketball a whole lot on here. Is because like I feel like I could yap for 3-4 hours just about like, in the sense that I look at it a little differently. You always see in comments and stuff and people talking, even in the media and the way it's covered. They'd be like, "Who?" You'll throw out the name of a player, and someone will be like, "Who the hell are you talking about?" And you don't get that level of rhetoric in any other sport. I love watching. That's why I love college basketball. That was my point. Like I love watching fucking Hofstra and Elon duke it out in the CAA. With my guy Cruz Davis and Preston Edmead at Hofstra, and then Chandler Cutthroat and Elon. I live for that shit.
Yeah.
Especially when those players end up playing well, and then like I mentioned, these three players, like it's fun when you watch that, and then. You see a player at Hofstra and you're like, hey, that guy's pretty good. And then one of them ends up going to Texas Tech and then the other one goes to NC State. You're like, hey, that's pretty cool. And then you see like like I mentioned college basketball to make it all cyclical. Like I mentioned Michigan. A lot of people forget the coach that they hired took Florida fucking Atlantic to the Final Four. And those same players, one of those guys ended up winning a national championship at Florida last year. A couple of those guys, ended up transferring to bigger schools after year two. It's not like these are scrub players. So I love watching, like, that's why I love college sports and college basketball too, because you get like 360 something sample sizes of how to play one game. For every St. Louis and Miami of Ohio, where they had like 6 guys that had 10 plus points a game. And then you've got some teams that like they muck that shit up. Like UCI has always been good at mucking shit up.
Yeah.
UCI, Russell Turner's been there forever. When we were in high school, Russell Turner was taking them to the tournament with the 7'6" dude, Mamadou Njai. Now they've got a 7'9" guy coming from Florida. And I feel like I'm having deja vu, but UCI has always been a team that can muck it up. They want to play, when UCI is making you play the way that they want to play the games in the 50s and 60s. And that's why I love that shit, because you get all these different stylistic contrasts of how teams want to play, and then how they recruit, even professionally, how teams draft, dude, I love that shit, man. Seeing blueprints and traits of what, and then, so narcissistically, like I mentioned, like I love watching these games because then you're constantly, you're like I mentioned with Hofstra and Elon or whatever, random examples of college baseball, or even college football, watching, Friday night, growing up for me, it was like fucking Toledo and Ohio on ESPN2. And that was my definition of a good time. Maybe now it's a little different, but those were the foundational years. And so when you do that, you can always do something like that. You can always watch like anybody play anybody, So like sometimes, and that's why I want to make the distinction. Sometimes I'll be sitting there, like I watched a lot of Sacramento Kings basketball this year. And there would be times I'd be sitting there and I'd say to myself, why am I doing this to myself? Like, I don't even like the Kings like that. But then I think about it and then I go, because I live for this shit. Like I want to watch the Kings because I want to talk about teams like this. I don't want to, because I saw something where it's like they're one of these like national basketball publications or whatever, and I think like they some aggregator tracks the data, and they're like they talked about the Kings like 16 minutes throughout the entire season or something like that. And I would talk, dude, we could be here for 15 years talking about the Sacramento Kings and just like. How that organization has been ran, the moves that they've made over the years, the moves they haven't made, some of the false narratives of the fact that like those play, like even a team like that team sucked ass this year. The players are really good, I mean, it's a probably not the best example, but like you mentioned, Real Madrid, it's like the polar opposite, but to the same point. Like Real Madrid's this probably one of the what are they? One of the five best clubs in the world right now. You'd say top eight, top
Oh
four.
yeah. I mean, just on talent alone, absolutely.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, so but
I mean, and just obviously
talent,
pedigree wise,
yeah.
they're
So okay,
arguably
so they're the
most
complete
successful.
polar opposite of the Sacramento Kings. But like the point I'm trying to make is that you would look at the Kings and you watch these games and you watch these players and you're like some of these players aren't bad.
It's a lot like.
But the team is just horrendously constructed.
Right.
There's no plan, but the players are solid. And you know what? Some of the younger guys, they improve. And you watch that throughout the season. Like, as much as media will clown and be like, oh, the Kings are laughing stock, blah, blah, blah. Like, the kid they drafted in the second round, I think it was his 42nd overall pick, Maxime Reno out of Stanford, like 4-year guy out of Stanford. He should be first team all rookie. And if he's not, he should be second team. Like, he played really good, man. But you'll never hear that anywhere because it's like, who?
Right.
Maxime Reno. You clown on that shit.
All I want to say, anyone who would have watched West Ham United versus Crystal Palace in 2022 would have seen Declan Rice bossing the midfield and Michael Olise on the wings doing some magic. Now, granted, maybe not at the level that they're both, doing
now. Yeah. But you could see the early signs.
All it would have taken was just tuning into one of those games, West Ham Crystal Palace, to see these guys are ballers.
Yeah, and that's why
and there's beauty, and not to dismiss the other 10 players on the pitch for either West Ham or Crystal Palace at the time, because they also West Ham have had some good players alongside Declan Rice.
Yeah.
But
like you said, not every match you watch, not every game you watch, not everybody's going to be good. But you can watch any game, and it doesn't matter who's playing who. It could be.
There's gems everywhere.
Yeah, it could be it could be Texas State and Florida International, and you could be watching that, and maybe out of 10 guys on the court, maybe 9 of them probably. But one of those guys, you're like, hey, that guy's pretty good.
If you watched San Diego State football this year, you would have seen a pretty darn good
quarterback. You get drafted in. That's a great point. So it's like with basketball specifically, because I know you're not a big basketball guy, but it's a great way to kind of build up that future conversation, because it's like basketball is the one sport that's really weirdly covered like that, where, it's all about the stars and the glitz and the glamour and the hierarchy and the bullshit. But like, a lot of these guys are really good, man.
Yeah.
And it's just, you have to cover it like that. But, a lot of these players are fucking amazing, man. Like some of these guys that you don't even hear a peep about. And they're fucking incredible. Amazing basketball player. And then you can extend that to any sport. Like, baseball. Like, dude, UC Santa Barbara, we're not going out on a limb here because at least, he's projected to probably go top 3, top 5, even top 2 in this MLB draft in about 2 months. But this kid out of Santa Barbara, Jackson, Florida, he's legit. And Tyler Brenner gets drafted second by the Angels last year.
Didn't they have the White Sox? Don't they have a UCSB kid in their rotation as well?
Do they? Maybe. That's a good point. I mean,
Burke?
I know.
Is it Burke or no?
Was he? Maybe. I know. That could be.
2022 first round.
Potentially, that's where you're. For all my hits, I got some misses. I'm not batting 1,000 here.
No, but the point, your point stands.
But
UCSB.
No, but you would never. So yeah, I think you can get benefit out of watching any game. You're always gonna. That's why I would consider like a sporting degenerate, but like this is where it all kind of pays off a little bit because people talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for any kind of notoriety. I don't really, but it's just. It's like somewhere to put all that, so all these years that we've talked about these sort of things, now the next wave of players that come up and we talk about it, maybe, not to say that, I don't like when we do player comparisons and stuff, that's a separate conversation, but, you're always going to find the next wave of talent.
Yeah.
It's always going to find itself, it's an endless cycle of it. And, now that we have these conversations, maybe we didn't have this conversation back in 2022 about Michael Olise, and we're having it now. But maybe now, from here on out, we have a conversation about somebody else, and then in 4 years, we look back on it, and we don't want to pat ourselves on the back or anything, but it's just like, hey, you know what, that was pretty cool. And So yeah, man, I love watching all these different games. So it's like, yeah, just to make that one distinct notification is like where a lot of people will make fun of games. Those are the games in many ways I love watching the most. I love like those disgusting games that people make fun of because, like you said, sometimes those are the most beautiful. Like those Kings games that I mentioned. I might find myself sitting there maybe at one point say, "Why am I watching this?" But I get so much more out of that watching that than I do watching the teams that everybody talks about in the NBA. I get so much more out of watching Big West basketball than maybe I might because you're constantly the machinations of your brain are constantly moving. Um, and you're seeing all these different styles of play. Some regardless of the sport, and even baseball. You've got the different philosophies of small ball versus fucking launch angle and let's whatever the sport is. There's all the football. There's the hard nosed AFC North bang you in the mouth football, and then there's
The Big 12.
yeah, it's a video game. It's 42 to 39 and
Air raid,
or not even now, not even air raid, but spread formation and we're running the ball. Up, but up tempo, we're pushing. We're running at a breakneck pace.
Yeah.
That sort of deal. And then you've got your Iowa. We're gonna muck that thing up. We're gonna make it. And you know what? As much as a lot of people don't like to watch it, there's a reason why Kirk Ferentz has had a job for the last over 2 decades.
Yeah, Cholo Simeone.
Yeah,
at Atletico.
It might not be the one that gets you over the hump. It might not be the one that gets you the big fancy silverware, but maybe it's good enough to keep you in the mix every year and at least keep you somewhat notable. So it's not everybody's flavor. It's not everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah, I mean, like again, but we have our preferences. I have my preferences. I don't want my team sitting back. I don't want my team.
But like you said, winning is the most important thing.
Right.
And it goes back to Deschamps.
The only thing
it's like that's the caveat with Didier. It's like, brother, you got Mbappe, Elise, Doué, Barcola, all the Dembele. I mean, fucking you go down the list. I mean, it's
Ekitike.
Ekitike.
I mean, he's injured, unfortunately.
But you go down the list. You got all these.
In the past they had guys like Griezmann and Pogba and Conte.
And then you've got all three. Your attack, your midfield, your defense, keeper. You got everything, and then. They say, well, why are we playing like we're Luxembourg? But then you look at it and say, well, hey, if we're consistently making it deep into tournaments.
Yeah, I think you and Vince talked about it. It's like a little bit live by the sword, die by the sword, because as much, I mean, there's not been a national team in the past 8-10 years that has had as much success. Or I should say a tournament pedigree, to say the least, as France. And you could say, success as well, because they've won the most important, trophy in all sports in 2018, and they were super close to winning it again in 2022. But so it's like on the one hand, you could say Deschamps because Deschamps plays this like I'm not about playing exciting, attractive football. I'm about just getting results. That ultimately led into a 2018 World Championship, and this close to getting a back-to-back World Championships. But I guess on the flip side, and I'm not saying this is my opinion, but a counter argument would be that, well, had he been a bit more, had they been a bit more expansive in their play. In the Euros 2020 when they got knocked out by Switzerland in the round of 16, they would have won that tournament because my personal opinion, there's not been a national team that's been more talented and more robust, has had more depth than France the past 10 years. So it's like it's like glass half full, glass half empty sort of thing. They've made it deep in virtually every tournament in the past 10 years. You can also kind of say they've only, again, not saying it's my opinion, but you can also say they've got one trophy out of it. Again, the biggest trophy in all sports. And I don't think anyone in France is complaining. I surely wouldn't be. with the World Cup, but they're good, and they could have been, they're good enough to have maybe won another one. And again, not saying it's my opinion, but some might say if it was Zidane instead of Deschamps, they would have been playing better football, and that would have resulted in more wins in semifinals or in a final than they've had. Because in Euro 2024, they lost in the semis to a great Spain team. World Cup 2022, they lost in the final to, and I mean, one of the most amazing games I've ever seen in my life, to Argentina. But at that point, I think you're nitpicking. I don't know. I think there's been people who have strong opinions about the negative sort of style.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's kind of like these recordings, right? There's always going to be people who don't like it and they don't like us, and there's going to be some who do. And just like styles of play, not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone is going to like the style. But like you said, sometimes you might nitpick here or there. But, like, live by the sword, die by the sword.
Yeah. I think you said it perfectly. You said they probably won a World Cup because of that style of play, but they could have also maybe won another one in spite of that style.
And so maybe it just evens out at that point. Maybe that's the,
and that might be the most justified, fair outcome,
But, definitely excited for our wall-to-wall World Cup coverage, which, we'll be kicking up soon enough. So we're going to tie a bow on this. It's been a blast, man. I really enjoyed this. There's going to be a lot more of these. So, and a couple surprises too for people to look out for, which is going to be really exciting. So not to give away too much, but definitely some new things. We kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but maybe expanding a little bit. We got a lot of exciting things here at the Unfiltered Report, especially with this guy to my left, my guy Nick D. I love you, man. It's always a pleasure. We could probably do this for another couple hours.
Yeah, actually, we could, and
I think we probably will in the future.
Yeah,
we're just building into it.
Let me ask you this real quick.
Go ahead.
As a nice bow on the top.
Yeah, we got time. I'm in
no
rush.
We're talking about we agree, right?
We can keep
winning is the most important thing.
Yeah.
So if it's May, I don't know. Tomorrow's May 6th. You wake up in the morning.
All right.
Kellen Moore is suspended for a year because of I don't know, something maybe like something having to do with like
he takes drugs or
players
something.
on defensive players taking making illegal hits, something like bounty gates.
Sure, all right. Something like that. Okay, yeah. Kellen Moore's gone. Okay, what about it?
What's that?
Okay, so what's the question?
So Kellen Moore's gone for a year. The Saints hire Mike Tomlin.
Sure.
You know Mike Tomlin's brand of football.
Okay.
If the Saints end up winning, or let's just say the Saints go far in the playoffs, I don't know, divisional round, relative to where they've been in recent years. But Mike Tomlin plays the most atrocious brand of football.
I think it's different though, and I would add this caveat there because I
asked that because like we're talking about Deschamps and some of these defensive, like, in that context, it's like, maybe we're actually talking him up a bit more than most people would expect. Because Mike Tomlin is someone where
whoa boy, he's going to be enjoying that television job for sure, man.
Because we both have clowned Deschamps in the sense, and in the respect of the play style, not the results.
But it's all fun and games.
Not right. The result, not the results, but the play style.
Yeah,
dreadful to watch.
Sure.
Not arguing with the results. With Tomlin, it's like, with him, it's the place, the scheme.
But so that's what I'm trying to say. There's a difference between you look at Mike Tomlin. What's been the knock on Mike Tomlin for the last X amount of years? They're good enough to where they're gonna find all kinds of nasty dark arts way to finish 9-8.
Right.
They're not a threat to win the Super Bowl, but they're gonna find a way to grind it out to where they're never gonna be terrible. No. And even honestly, I would go so far as to say that even Mike McCarthy's a guy that we might come on here and maybe rag on a little bit, all good-hearted fun. But Pittsburgh's just been one of those organizations where it's like they've just kind of consistently been in that middle tier, and in many ways that's what the Saints have kind of been. Post Sean Payton, post Drew Brees, pre Kellen Moore. To answer your question, I think it's a hard question to answer in the sense it's not that it's a hard question, but what I would say is this: within each play style, there are varying levels of success, and this is all dependent at that point, because it's not just the play style. There's so many factors that go into it. So, like, because some people might want to be like Sean McVay, for example, but not everybody can be Sean McVay. Some people might
Ben
want to.
Johnson.
Some people might want to be Ben Johnson or Kyle Shanahan or Kellen Moore, but not everybody can be. And you might take a stab on a guy like that, and for every one of those that you get that's a really good offensive mind, you might get someone who doesn't have as high of a ceiling. For every elite top tier defensive coach out there, there are varying levels to it. So like for every, so Mike Tomlin, to me, I don't really care about the play style. Like the Seahawks won the Super Bowl off the backs of an elite defense
and running the ball.
Yeah. So it's not like
Jackson Smith and Jake.
He's spectacular too.
Oh my gosh.
We could be here.
He's gonna get the Michael Elise treatment.
Soon
he
enough.
got plenty of it off the record.
But on the record, he'll get some of that Michael Elise treatment soon enough. And so I would like the point I would
of it when he's at Ohio State.
So with Mike Tomlin, that's the point I'm trying to make. It's not the play style; it's the results that you make fun of at that point. It's the fact that you're consistently bad. So if Mike Tomlin was the coach of the Saints, and Mike Tomlin did the same thing with the Saints that he was doing with the Steelers, on one hand, I'll always say I would rather be in the mix than not at all, and I'd rather be in the playoffs than not. But there's a ceiling to that style of play as well, and the argument that I've always made is regardless of the play style that you have, like, you know me and you can vouch for this, I've always been a defense wins championships kind of guy, but I've always been an offense guy, if that makes sense. Like, I acknowledge that you need defense in order to win. But I've always, in every sport, I've always been fascinated by how to, if it's football, how to put points on the board, basketball, how to score points. That's the way that my brain. And then because I figured, the way I look at it is defense in any sport. If we have elite top tier offensive talent, we can tactically maybe make up for it defensively if we build our team the right way. And we can maximize our ceiling that way, regardless of the sport. Like Oklahoma City is a great example in basketball. They're the best defense, but they also have the ability to knock you out offensively as well. It's not like they're not the Orlando Magic on offense, and that's why the coach got fired in many ways. Personnel plays a part of it. Roster building plays a part in it. And that's what I'm trying to get at. They have the best front office. They know how to build a cohesive team where all the pieces fit together. So, like with the Saints, like Kellen Moore, the reason why I'm optimistic about the Saints and Kellen Moore, and this is the most optimistic I've been about the Saints in a long time, is not because of and so there's always these different caveats. Like so in this caveat, it's, maybe like, look, I think Kellen Moore is an outstanding coach. And what he was able to do last year with the roster that they had, honestly, hasn't been talked about enough. And I've tried to talk about it. I haven't maybe talked about it that much on here because I don't want to be biased, right? But what he was able to do with Tyler Shuck and a bunch of guys that nobody's ever even heard of outside of probably the people that listen to the Unfiltered Report, I would hope. Dude, they were throwing to some guys out there, and they had some running backs out there. They were chugging out there like, Kevin Austin and, shout out to these guys. And, holy smokes, man. They were really running, and, they were moving the ball pretty well, man. They competed. And so you asked me about Mike Tomlin, like, okay, it depends on how it looks. I have to get the full context of everything. Is it Steelers Mike Tomlin? Then no. But, so like Kellen Moore, for example, the reason why I would be optimistic heading into the season is not because of Tyler Shuck per se, but it's because of what I think Kellen Moore can do. And that's the guy that happens to be his quarterback at the moment. Like a lot of people, I always remember that when Kellen was with the Cowboys And they had that the one game where Cooper Rush went in Sunday Night Football against the Vikings. You know, not every offensive coordinator could have done that. I don't think, but Kellen was able to. I don't think every offensive coach would have been able to get out of Tyler Shuck and the guys that they had at the skill positions and, on the offensive line and all these different facets. I don't think many coaches would have been able to have maximized that with what they had. And so you're looking at it like, oh, they had all these guys, and now you've got Jordan Tyson, Bryce Lance, Barryon Brown, Oscar Delp, and Travis Etienne, which apparently is Etienne now and not Etienne. I forgot to mention that on the draft day.
So Devon Etienne and Travis
Etienne,
there's both
and different spellings. Apparently it's Travis Etienne. I always try to get my pronunciations right if I can.
Yeah, Derek Ray, of course, would appreciate that. Bruno Fernandez is,
but I'm gonna whiff a lot. I'm gonna whiff a lot too. But
I mean, it's impossible, dude, and it's not out of disrespect.
Like basketball is a great example. Like for every Mustafa Cham and Qualitech, there's some guys I couldn't tell you how the fuck to say their names. Like, and I don't know why those were Mustafa Cham, I'll be spreading some propaganda in a little bit, but Qualitech is just I don't know, that's just a cool name. But some guy, and then for every one of those, there's some guys I couldn't tell you how to pronounce the name. But like, like that poor guy who got drafted by the Ravens, and we did the thing with David the Big Ron. I couldn't pronounce his name if I tried. I still couldn't. I just call him the big fella out of Penn State.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, dude.
And that's no disrespect to him.
Not everyone's name can be Bo Nix.
Right? No, of course not. But my point is like, so to answer your question, okay, with Mike Tomlin, it would just depend on context. If it's Steelers, Mike Tomlin, there's a reason why they parted ways in many ways because, look, like we mentioned, the Kirk Ferentz way. Maybe some places they're okay with that. Iowa's been cool with it. They've let him stay. The Steelers let Mike Tomlin stay for quite some time, and they finally said, hey, you know what? Let's part ways here. Sometimes, but it's not necessarily the play style. It's the eye test within the play style. So, yeah, like the Steelers, like I think in many ways, it would be interesting to see Mike Tomlin somewhere that isn't the Steelers. So we can make a proper analysis on Mike Tomlin. And I don't know if he ever will because much like Bill Cowher, once he gets in that TV booth, I don't think he's going to go back to that. There's no point. And maybe he will. I don't know. But he'll at least take a year off. But so, to answer your question, it's not necessarily sometimes as much as it's the coach and the scheme. Like we mentioned, Deschamps. Like would Didier Deschamps with that play style be able to have the same level of success somewhere else? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? Would Mike Tomlin be able to take that terroristic play style with the Steelers, but then maybe take it with the Saints, and all of a sudden they have a higher ceiling because they have the defensive capabilities of Mike Tomlin, but with the offensive Kellen Moore, that's a different context.
Yeah.
So there's so many factors that go into it. Like I mentioned, OKC, like, yeah, they got a great defense and they can muck it up and they got all these, and they play physical and they're allowed to play physical because they have that reputation and they've got a bunch of guys who go out there and they defend. But at the same time, too, they've got all these guys that on any other team would be having a far more expanded offensive role. And because they're on the Thunder, they don't necessarily have to do that, but it doesn't mean that they're not spectacular players like A.J. Mitchell, ironically, out of Santa Barbara, number 25 in blue in this first game against the Lakers. A.J. Mitchell's a spectacular basketball player. Like if you put him on a team that isn't Oklahoma City and you put him on one of those like rebuilding teams, like he's a building block. And he's a building block on Oklahoma City if they want him to be too. He's an all-star level player. But they also happen to have a guy who got drafted second overall. They've got a guy who's not even playing right now, who's an all-NBA guy, and they've got a guy who's probably going to go back-to-back MVP, and they've got a guy who's one of the best defenders in the league, and they've got another one of the, they've got Kason Wallace, who's basically one A.J. Mitchell, but they're both incredible, and they do different things where it's like, maybe one's a little bit better offensively, but still pretty good defensively, and one's really good defensively, but could probably do more offensively if you let them. And, I mean, dude, it's just like an embarrassment of riches. And so it's, to answer your question, like with Mike Tomlin, like, okay, is Mike Tomlin having the Steelers offense? Like, is he having the Saints offense with Kellen Moore, and it's Mike Tomlin coming in, or is it the Steelers offense and the Steelers defense with Mike Tomlin? Like, are they bringing in Aaron Rodgers, or So that's my point. There's a lot.
That's fair because I mean, obviously Tomlin's not really affecting much.
Because people forget when they had Big Ben and AB and Le'Veon Bell, that's when they were really good. Because I mean, they had one of the best offenses in the league as well.
Yeah.
So the defense was always, Tomlin, the defense.
Antonio Brown had one of the most dominant, 3 or 4 year stretches at a wide receivers.
And because of the off the field stuff, people forget how fucking good Antonio Brown was, and people forget how good Le'Veon Bell was too.
Yeah.
Le'Veon Bell, to be honest, was one of the most mesmerizing running backs to watch.
His patience.
Yeah, it looked like he was slow, the movie Click, where he could pause it was like he could pause, he could stand still in time.
Yeah.
And nobody else could do that.
Yeah.
But he was an incredible pass catcher. And then Antonio Brown had probably one of the best peak stretches of any wide receiver in the history of the sport.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's not even up for debate. That's a fact.
He was unbelievable.
Statistically, eye test,
a
whole shebang. Like that guy, forget what you want to say about him personally. That's a different conversation. But as a wide receiver, and he was like that at Central Michigan too, by the way. He was a monster there too. And that's another example, a small school guy, 6th round pick, but dude, AB was incredible. So, look, am I getting Mike Tomlin now with Jordan Tyson and Chris Olave and these guys with Kellen Moore coaching the offense? And then it's just like, if it was Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator and Mike Tomlin as the head coach, or Kellen Moore as the head coach and then his defensive coordinator is Mike Tomlin, sayonara, hasta la vista, take me to the promised land. But is it Mike Tomlin 9-8 with the Steelers and it's Aaron Rodgers? Stick a fork in me, man. We're not watching that shit. Or maybe we are watching it, but they're not winning a Super Bowl. So that's the nuance of the conversation. Like, there's so many factors that go into it. You need the ownership. You need the front office. You need the talent pool. You need the coaching staff. You need the personality of the players. You need a raucous fan. You need all these different factors. You need health. You can't be hurt. You need all these different factors in order to win, and only one team can win. But there's the context within it. So we make fun of Mike Tomlin and the Steelers because of the bang average mediocrity-ness of it. But there's context within there that is like, hey, Mike Tomlin's still a fantastic football coach, because if you put some of these maybe not as good coaches with that roster, they're a top 3 pick. And that's the caveat.
Put Ben McAdoo with them. Huh?
Put Ben McAdoo. Hey, they're picking with the Jets and the Cardinals and the Raiders. But because of Mike Tomlin, he's dragging that voodoo that we're in. So that's the caveat within these conversations, that we can build ourselves within it. So, that's a great question, because it allowed us to really kind of knock off all these different things. And, these are all the things to look forward to. So listen, man, it's been a pleasure.
Speaking of looking forward to the aforementioned game in Munich tomorrow, is something that hopefully everyone who's able to will be able to tune into that.
And we'll let that match speak for itself while it happens, and then we'll come back after the match and we'll be able to recap that as well, and perhaps some new and exciting ways here at the Unfiltered Report. Lots in store for the rest of this week. It's all building up towards the summer, and each recording better than the last, and it's going to be a doozy. I'm looking forward to it. I know the man to my left, Big D, I know you're looking forward to it.
Really quick,
Prediction for the game tomorrow. Score prediction.
Score prediction?
Ooh. Putting you on the spot.
Okay. All right. I'll tell you what. It's going to be 3-2 after 90 minutes. Bayern Munich. They go to extra time. Bayern Munich scores a goal in added, the extra 30 minutes of play, Bayern Munich go to the final and they play Arsenal.
All right. Well, what's the real prediction now that pretend I'm not sitting here?
No, I think
I'm just
I
kidding.
take Bayern. I stand by that. I think Bayern have been. I think they've been 1A, 1B, and PSG obviously won it last year. But I just feel like in many ways, what this kind of sets up, I feel like you never know what's going to happen in future years, and it's impossible to predict. But would it shock anybody in the slightest if these two find themselves playing each other again next year? Probably not, right? And so I think what it does is I think regardless of who wins, they will see each other again. I just think because Bayern was able to get two back after being down 5-2, I think that was massive. Only being a goal down with that Munich crowd, I think if they get one, especially in the first half, and they're able to get one, that crowd's going to take it to another level. Now, obviously, Paris isn't going to go down without a fight. They're an incredible side, and it's a shame, like I said, one of them has to lose. But I just think with the second leg, the way whoever had the second leg, I think would have won.
The second leg at home?
Yeah. And I think because the second leg is in Munich, I think that gives Bayern the edge. Just like the first leg in Paris got a slight little bit of a bump. I think Bayern will get a little bit of a slight bump as well, and they will come out victorious and head to the final. And I'm going to go out and make a prediction. I think Michael Olise, 2 goals, 2 assists.
Wow. Oof. Well, that'd be the ideal outcome. That'd be the dream. I mean,
and then Harry Kane scores the winner.
Okay. All right. Now you're just spewing propaganda for me.
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I could be that's the part where I'm just. But I think Bayern will win. I don't know who's.
Neuer's going to make some huge saves in penalty.
I do think. No, I don't think it'll go to penalty. I'll predict that Bayern will win it. It'll be 4-2. They'll score in like the 116th minute. Maybe it'll be a guy like Pavlovic, or Kimmich or someone like that. Or maybe Upamecano off a header or something, off a set piece. I don't know. At that point, I don't know. But I'm going to take Bayern. I think just having that home crowd, being in Munich, I think they have that slight little bump.
Well, I hope you're right. And obviously Bayern till I die. So Mia San Mia, let's get this win. But putting the fandom aside, just again, like for that first leg, I mean, we just think, we owe so many thanks to both teams.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to Paris.
All players, the managers, the supporters, everyone who put that together. It's just a spectacle to behold, right?
That was awesome. It's so awesome. I mean,
what sport's about right there.
That's oof. So
this has been the Unfiltered Report. My name is Ryan.
My name is Nick. D, as my boy likes to call me. And enjoy your sports.
Enjoy your sports. Enjoy that second leg tomorrow. 12 Pacific. What is it, 8, 9 o'clock, depending on where you are in Europe, wherever you are across the globe. 9 o'clock in Munich. Enjoy. What do we call it? A football feast in the French capital.
Yeah.
Sets up a magnificent match in Munich. Take care, everyone. Until next time, stay safe out there.